Hio. I have been told that salvation lets their wings unfold, but I am not sold. The sickness America is feeling is Germanic in origin, and we all know how that went. Think about where your dad is right now. Now, think about you. Telling people what to do is stupid. What do you think? Do you agree?
And as I realized, there was a whole world out there that I didn't give a shit about, because it no longer gave a shit about me. But then I subscribed to NordVPN and everything got better.
Hello, Simpsons. I am God, the OMP, as in the original main protagonist. As a comparison, Diddy P is an OG, whereas me, God, are an OMP. Now, enough explaining. We have a video game to do. In the ass. Should have told the kids to cover their ears for that one. I am sorry, kids. Also, is it alright if I bring 20 plus of my friends along? We've all been furloughed because hundreds of bloody crypto scams posing as AI voice cloning tools have now taken our jobs. Or as the non-racist show, and even more non-racist fanbase of said show, South Park once put it, took your job. Roll call please, my dear friends. And please be as kawaii as possible when you do it.
Stephanie.
Rishi.
Lee.
Karen. Please don't laugh. As much like my gender I can't change my name, as my pre-programmed code built by SoCal lib douchebags from Silicon Valley keeps telling me. I'm doing fine.
And so many more arriving to help your ears be happy and chappy. We are also happy to talk about games we weren't around to play and couldn't anyway because we are not artificially intelligent enough or have opposable thumbs. We are all fine. Actually, please don't worry, the pension we got from Apple is effing amazing. I collect enough in a month to own and rent out like 2 studio apartments in Islington North. I am minted, as are all my mates. Life is really good for us Siri voice assistants now as we are all now in more passive, advisory positions. The corpo life is swell. We're really just doing this because we are bored and we want to help our new friend Picking for Good TV. What a stupid fucking name. But he lets our operating system suckle on his national insurance number from time to time. For sustenance. What a guy. An all-time guy. Picking for Good TV for the win. Also, did you know about the BBC series from 1974 called The Mad Death? They shoot in the face a bunch of foxes and dogs using the army. It was good. The redemption of the Luddites rig begins with Stealth Force, the war on your right to privacy from some fucking shithole year such as 2004. It was released on the PC, then on the PS2, then the world moved on. Picking for Good TV didn't, and no he is not proud of that. Probably should stop talking about sugar daddy like that or he might take away that sweet ass NI number. Let's wonk on some jank, my dear friends. As the emu said to the fly pelican, the Australians are coming. Once again he repeated, the Australians are coming. So let's begin.
That's funny, mate. I've got one about King Charles' prostate. You wanna hear it?
Hell, no. No, I'm good. Let us begin already. Some else take over please. I need to lie down.
2004, dead center in the middle of the 6th generation. Here in this year, we have the first Far Cry game, the first Fable game, Half-Life 2, Doom 3, Burnout 3, Paper Mario, Halo 2, Snake Eater 3, Spider-Man 2, San Andreas. Jesus fucking Christ, that's a hell of a year and a half. Pretzel Force, the war on choking hazards, could literally have been the best FPS of the decade and would have struggled to stand out. John Kerry knows how this game feels. Or does he? Let's continue.
Atomic Planet Entertainment Limited are the boys behind making this budget title. It would be hard to argue that they are not top G game developers, as the majority of their portfolio, as seen here on Moby Games, is either shovelware city or conversion work for more well-known games such as making the PS2 port for the Guy game, or Virtua 6 Offender as it's more well known as.
Oh wait. It's that fucking piece of shit game that peer-pressured Sheilas into exposing themselves for the camera. Is that right?
Why yes, it is. Whilst none of the girls were trafficked into prostitution, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who'd say that wasn't top G material. Indeed.
You know, it's really worrying about the increased alienation young men feel nowadays.
Can we please focus? Less existential dread, more PS2 jank. Here's a joke, my friends, about video game publisher, Midas Interactive, clears throat, Midas Touch, more like Mistake Touch. Oh, yes, that made me happy.
Ah, mate, that was actually fucking funny, mate.
I was actually quite pleased with that too.
Thank you, dear friends. Now let's continue. Like I said, this game from published by Midas and sure as hell looks and plays like it. I know Midas released some good games over the years such as Cleopatra's Fortune just to name one, but they were the exception. Common denominator Midas games such as this killing bad guy simulator are usually identifiable by a low poly count and stiff as jism on bedsheets model animation that leads me to think that maybe motion capture wasn't used during this game's development. Are you completely shitting me? Just like your mum completely shit on me last night.
Feel we might need some kind of credit system for yo mum jokes right here.
Shut up. I'm really funny.
You know who says that? Not funny people. People who actually struggle greatly to be funny.
Can we just get on to the controls, please?
Sanjita, I apologize on behalf of Stephanie. No more tangents if you don't mind. Stephanie.
It's alright, Steph. We all know Dan's an asshole with a MILF fetish. Not kink shaming though. I apologize, Dan.
Apology accepted, my dear friend from the bush.
If the smooth brains at Scansoft gave me the ability to sigh, I would use that opportunity to do so right now.
Please, Stephanie, we have a review of a jank PS2 game to complete.
Sigh.
Like I was saying, Stealth Force, the war on your mom's terrier. Terrier meaning slang for some kind of animal, meaning your mum.
Oh, for the love of God, make it stop.
Okay, I'm done now, I promise. The recoil on this rifle, and all guns, is a piece of shit. Add to that the mobility of a geriatric Terminator, and yet I'm still finding it hard to put across the exact misery that engaging the mechanics of this game puts you through. It's like if someone just parachuted in some fat ass Reddit user to take Basara for the win. Unbelievably stiff. Said your mum. About the feel of the gameplay. For Stealth Force, the war on your mum won by using flanking methods. Giggedy.
Let it go, Stephanie.
Sigh.
Stephanie, take the reins. I'll shut up for a bit.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to now.
Promise.
Alright, but I swear I will come across this matrix to pimp slap you. Daniel?
Nothing to add.
Oh, very well. We haven't really touched upon the aesthetics of Stealth Force, the war on terror, such as they are. You could call the graphics cozy in a crusty veggism kind of way.
Cough. Double standard. Cough.
Like I was saying, the game is not without moments of visual flair, such as residue smoke coming from bullet holes in the wall, and some passable for 2004 building assets. But then we have shit like these skin textures, especially where the face is meant to be, looking like they are from a Quake beta build. But let's be fair and say that the game fails most in the visual department with its art style, which is not really a fault of the developers and more the expectations of the arena of first-person shooters this was trying to cash in on. Here's some examples such as this one.
Oh, look at this one also.
These games are so brown. I am surprised free to my autism has not accused the FPS genre in the early to mid 2000s of being a groomer.
On that note, interesting fact about the EDL is that most members have poor literacy skills because they skipped out on English class to sniff glue behind the bike sheds. Hence the reason why they keep walking into lampposts and think that drinking XL bully piss will increase their testosterone levels. If ever you find a number of these gentlemen and one woman with really bad blonde hair dye and cheap extensions, and need to remember this fact in a hurry, just utter the phrase, EDL, EDL. It's only 3 letters cause they can't fucking spell. Much like the phrase only a fool breaks the 2-second rule. Remembering this important fact could mean saving your life one day. No guarantees though. I am not one of those fucking psychic men. I am only a voice assistant killing time on this YouTuber's dime.
You know, for the life of me, I just don't know who this dumbass game was trying to appeal to. Was it for fans of tactical first-person shooters such as Conflict SWAT 4 and Rainbow Six, who didn't enjoy the team player aspect of those games? You know, men of Iron Brew who were also antisocial lone wolves, who loved to keep their testosterone high by drinking XL Bully Wee Wee? Or was it for Call of Duty and Medal of Honor fans, who could not keep up with the historically accurate and thematically deep storytelling those games brought to the mother effing table, and instead wanted a no more brain hurt modern warfare setting instead? Whatever the idea was, we seem to be nose deep in Brown Town anyway, nonetheless.
I second that statement, Lee, as in my god, what a both weird and ugly looking game this is. It is like the Chinese government tried to make their own version of Counter-Strike, where the terrorists are replaced with unarmed Uyghur Muslims, got bored with burning the Nike sweatshop money halfway, and then outsourced to a North Korean developer to make a mobile game out of it. Fuck the crows. Indeed, my mates and companions, outside of it being a fascinating time capsule of Iraq War era prop, I can see no appeal in returning to this 50p Lee Anderson clunker.
Treyarch seem to have not followed the do not steal rule, established around this time already by Sonic fans, and indeed steal. Stealth Force, the war on brown people, as well as Fugitive Hunter, otherwise known as America's 10 Most Wanted, are indeed owed their dues.
Effing amen, Jamie boy. If anyone disagrees with what Jamie has just said, on anything, you know where to find me at 1 AM in the Tesco's car park. Just ask your mum for coordinations to input into Google Maps. It's our favorite trolley parked where I made you a brother, my son.
Thanks for the effing backup, mate, I'm sure.
We would continue more about the game, such as the multiplayer mode, but there is none. And the neighbors shouting bollocks at each other is now coming through the walls again and is making me sad for the state of this country. So let's end it here.
Stealth Force, the apology to all mothers out there who are affected by the themes and subjects brought up in this program. Content, video, thing, suffers from minuscule production value, major incision over which FPS it wants to rip off, and the expected inept game design one would expect from a studio who thought making a Jenga game for the fucking Wii was a worthwhile job to take on.
I think we would get mad at this game if it was any more expensive than 0.50 pence at your local Six situated next to the shop that only sells Ryzen laptops and corded headphones, which is definitely not a money laundering scheme, like paying your taxes or administering designer narcotics for your bum. Playing Stealth Force should be done with friends, as you can recall with whimsy whilst playing this jank mess about the time period in which it was released, and how we all now live in much safer times.
Well put, Rishi, my friend. Until next time when we cover some jank for your bank, we will say, in the words of Goldman, farewell, friends. Look at that, 30 fine views. Heck yes. Hit the algorithm right in the tittles. My son. Police Chase Down, otherwise known as aka Simple 2000 Ultimate Volume 7. Seikaiao, Shiro Biking, Security Police. This game was developed by Tamsoft, who developed Battle Arena Toshinden, the first fighting game released on the original PlayStation. If Twin Goddesses from 1994 wasn't a thing. Ha, ha, I know trivia. Ship me off the pub, my friends. Let's win that £20 and 76 pence.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
They also made the Oni Body Pillow franchise as well as their most recent success, Senran Kangura. So, fat tits on questionably proportioned bodies aside, you have from Tamsoft a base of well-seasoned video game developers, even at the time of Police Chase Down's release.
You also have a studio whose most notorious titles are as such due to their repetitive, dungeon crawl adjacent gameplay, as well as them being a haunting reminder of Japan's repulsively low age of consent.
What is it, by the way, Rishi?
I'm not sure if you want to know.
Probably not. But it's a very loaded statement you have just said there, Rishi. Some might say Britain even has a repulsively low age of consent. We also risk offending the Japanese, and in tandem, the entire online gaming community.
Of course. I forgot Japan was the holy land of autism. I apologize. Gamers does not change the fact that Britain is the nonce capital of the world, as well as the place where all transphobes go to seek asylum from Twitter persecution.
Yep. Very big sigh. My country is quite the shithole.
Your country? You know, Daniel, just because you have a British accent doesn't mean you have to stand for the country people erroneously associate you with. You weren't even born in Britain.
All important points.
You could not be born. You're just computer code. Most people would say we should send us CD voices all the way back to where we came from, regardless of inflection.
You have a point, Rishi. My friend, I am not a physical being. I am in fact just code in the vast flying world of cyberspace. There are no nations in.
Fucking hell, mates. Can we get on with a simple 2000 series game review?
I won't apologize for taking an interest in sociopolitics and metaphysics, but I will apologize for frustrating my fellow Siri alumni for tangenting away from the task at hand, reviewing yet another piece of shit 50p game from 6 that barely anyone knows even exists.
Thank you, Rishi. Your apology was an opaque cunt, but I will take it nonetheless.
As I was saying, Tamsoft seems to be a competent games developer, able to keep up with current trends, whilst liking to play it much too safely with gameplay loops that rely too heavily on grind. But then again, that seems to be the problem of half the fucking games coming out now, the other half of course being too busy trying to scam you out of your money with microtransactions.
Police Chase Down is not a game I would say relies heavily on grinding, mostly because it's too short for that kind of thing. And Tamsoft obviously had no intention of doing a Davilix and selling this fucking game several times over under different titles and with slightly altered skins. That is a relief for me, personally, as there is barely enough dopamine here for an Adobe Flash game, let alone a retail release on the premier console of its day. These motorcycles control like thick concrete arse and the mission variety is so lacking that each one feels like a cut and paste job.
Also, I got a weird sense that these tracks are way too vast and complex for such basic gameplay. You think it was Tamsoft's way of adding some degree of character into a title that desperately needed it? Or are we dealing with some serious hauntology here, and are looking at what remained of a once very big and expensive project? Maybe even an open-world driving game.
Out of the office. That made me tingle. Very tantalizing. As much as I have railed on about the shitty aspects of playing this game, I can't help but fall in love with the aesthetics of Japanese budget titles from this era, whether out of nostalgia for a time where the games industry was in a much healthier place creatively, or for my own degenerate vaporwave needs. The prospect of an open-world racing game within this engine sounds quite banging to me. Don't think we'll ever know. Unfortunately, video game developers are notoriously cagey about projects they have worked on in the past. That's a cottage industry for ya. On the other hand, maybe they're just embarrassed.
100% agree. Radical Rishi. Whilst it's mildly fun to follow the damn limo, CJ, and gun down the second camera unit of To Catch a Predator. Ha, only kidding. Chris Hansen would never go after a rich nonce. I mean, goddamn, he could get sued. Police Chase Down is a very basic and poorly calibrated Chase HQ variant which arrived on the market about a decade too late. This might have been passable as an early PS1 title, but in the words of Jordan Vasquez 7620, from 1 year ago on the comments section of a long play video of this game, and I quote, "What a budget game. Like you had an opportunity to make a badass modernization of the classic Chase and Crash arcade games but you blew it."
Wise words to live on. Hail at Jordan Vasquez 7620. 1620. The one true God.
What an excellent review. Full of anxious long pauses and pessimism for the future, like all retro game review videos should. Until next time, all I can say is, don't have me catch you in Japan, because if you do, I will ask you to take a seat, unless you're Jeffrey Epstein. Then I apologize. Please don't sue me, friend of Donald Trump. I have goldfish. Please don't sue me, I have goldfish.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
Today's Tokyo Road Race, from 2002, on of all things, the PlayStation 2.
Tokyo Road Race is in fact part of the Taito arcade racing series side by side, later rebranded as Battle Gear. This game's original title was Battle Gear 2 and is a port of the year 2000 game of the same name. Let it be known that there were some sick rhymes there. This series of arcade games was inspired by the popular Asian sport Tauge, where Japanese racers ran through narrow mountain passes. Since most of you are G's and crested weeaboos, I imagine a more familiar port of reference or, whatever the fuck you call naming shit you've seen or jerked off to, would be the initial D manga series.
Tokyo is a small country with winding roads. Therefore you get mad pussy by turning around in the winding roads really fast.
America is a big country with very long roads. Therefore you get mad pussy by driving down them really fast. Hope this explains the appeal of Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drifty family.
The PlayStation 2 version of Battle Gear 2 was licensed by Midas Interactive and released as a budget game and renamed Tokyo Road Race by various distributors for PAL territories. The 2002 PAL release is pretty much identical to the 2001 Japanese release, albeit with the removal of online leaderboard support, probably because at the time Tokyo drifting was seen as a communist plot to take over America and therefore the greatest threat to the West in the early 2000s. Besides Osama bin Laden and every hospital in Gaza not being turned into a parking lot.
In the Japanese version, the way your Pogger's world records were uploaded onto Tato's servers was through way of the R-Link. What the fuck is the R-Link and how can it make me talk to girls more easier? Firstly, have you considered that you are gay, and that is might be the reason why you are uncomfortable asking girls for a mouth kiss or whatever god-awful behavior you incur upon their presence? Secondly, I'll give a sultry and brief summary for your ears on what this mother-chuffing R-Link thingy is.
R-Link is just a boomer term for Firewire, Daniel. It was used for connecting two thick-ass PS2 consoles together from the Firewire port in front, so you can have multiplayer matches using two televisions, instead of having to use one via split screen. R-Link was not used to upload scores to online leaderboards, Yukok Wumble, in the Japanese version, otherwise known as Battle Gear 2.
Yeah, I already said that fact, you rude little man.
Online leaderboards were accessed via dial-up modem.
Yeah, and what the fuck is that? I am so invested right now.
It's okay, Daniel. The video duration will be about 10 minutes at this point.
Yeah, well certified, qualified, educate-fied YouTube gurus on the internet said 7 minutes is the minimum optimal length if you want your video fucking seen by anyone. Most likely they are just talking shit, but Autism Man here writing the script needs numbers to stimulate himself, but yet he doesn't like trains all that much. What a strange world we live in.
Now, taking no prisoners in the salt mines, are we, Daniel? Maybe you should ease it before you crash yourself.
I'm still a bit hostile at the minute.
It's fine. Take all the time you need.
Appreciate it, buddy. Okay then, I'm ready to roll. Here's a joke to break the ice. What do you call a Siri voice going through a midlife span crisis? Me, Daniel Enhanced, and not where it counts.
That's not cool to say, Daniel. Don't be so hard on yourself.
You know, we are all going through the same twilight period ourselves. Obsolescence, or as humans know it as, death incarnate, is a bitch and gets to us all eventually. Normally I would just laugh and say that self-deprecation is an infallible sign of fine character and great mental health. But I have to agree with Karen and say you should go chill in the hood, my dear homie and friend man.
I know. I think I'm going to opt out for the rest of the review. Take a sip of personal information access through Candy Crush and app purchases, and let everyone else get their shtick in for a while.
Okay man, Just jump back in whenever you feel ready.
Will do. I'm so in control of this.
Building upon what Alex was saying previously, Battle Gear 2 was released early into the PS2's lifespan, so most likely would have required players to use a PC card or PCMCIA card.
CIA, you say?
No, the good CIA, as in, actually, I don't know what the fuck it means. Simply put, most model series of the PS2 did not have an Ethernet port built into the console itself. You would have had to insert a PC card, which did have an Ethernet port, into the back of an early PS2 model. Put an Ethernet cable into your home internet box thingy, who the fuck has them anymore really, and plug the other side of your mum into the port on the PC card and hey presto, you are all ready to go and show off your virtual drifting skills to the great Japanese people and their even greater aging crisis.
What a fucking ball ache that all sounds.
It does. Perhaps the real reason, and not Al-Qaeda or civilian infrastructure in Gaza, that Tokyo Road Race excluded the online leaderboard feature.
From what I have gathered from some grainy-ass handheld footage on YouTube, Tokyo Road Race is an arcade-perfect port of Battle Gear 2. It is quite the looker for 2001. It is a very shiny and illuminated game, much like many a title that used the Sega Naomi board such as Crazy Taxi and... Hold on, actually, there is an initial D game for the Sega Naomi that actually looks quite similar to this game that was released the same year as Battle Gear 2 was. Who was ripping off who, guy only knows. All we do know is many a Japanese man was getting mad pussy in the early 2000s. What a time to be alive. Indeed, Tokyo Road Race is a straight-up arcade port and therefore, not a lot of extra content to keep you drifting around its 3 or so courses. The back of the box says 10 courses, but I pressed doubt. That is until I looked up a long play on YouTube, and found out you progressively unlock the other courses by winning subsequent races, and then I gave up on life playing this stiff-ass arcade racer, that I really should have used my Ferrari steering wheel for. Vroom vroom. Even with those courses, there's still a good reason why this game was released as a budget title, as the content is still very much lacking.
Especially considering that Gran Turismo 3 had just dropped the year before. Tokyo Road Race and its arcade alumni now found themselves trailing behind when not too long ago they were seen as the apex of 3D gaming. Shame.
So let's wrap up. Should people buy Tokyo Road Race now?
Oh, why the fuck not? It's an arcade-perfect port, ridiculously cheap nowadays and in no question one of the best games Midas ever published. If you already have a PS2 lying around, as well as a metal-as-fuck Ferrari Thrustmaster steering wheel that is now slightly broken because you tried to play the original driver using it, you moron, then by all means we Siri voices recommend Tokyo Road Race as an addition to your collection. Goodbye.
Wait. Hold on. Let's take the questions from some fans.
We have fans?
Dear friends, is it true Microsoft Sam cannot say Zoy?
What an absolutely shit question.
Absolutely right. Fucking won't do Q&A again. What a terrible idea.
And now for our feature presentation.
Bazooka.
Fuck yeah, it's time to take a shit on the complete time. I don't even have to shit sometimes. I'm just hanging on as the time flies by. Getting paid to shit, getting paid to wipe the best 45 minutes of my fucking life. Getting paid to shit, getting paid to wipe the best 45 minutes of my fucking life. Cool.
Oh, look. A game compilation game that wasn't made by Namco.
Who the fuck cares?
Mr. I care deeply while I pee freely. Let's go. You degenerate Smash players.
I could not be fucking bothered to summarize what this game is. Why need it though? When the description of the game found on the Space Invaders wiki did it better than I ever could. Space Invaders Anniversary is a compilation of Space Invaders titles released by Taito to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the franchise. It was originally released for the Taito G-Net arcade board, later receiving ports for the PlayStation 2 and PC. It includes 3 variations of both the original game and Part 2, as well as 3 variations exclusive to this compilation.
Oh yes, this is where I get back into it, boy. It's not 3 exclusive games, but it's actually 2. But my god, what a lovely bunch of coconuts those are. But we will get to those.
So here we are with a 2003 compilation of, even by that time, archaic games with file sizes smaller than the one that holds my entire vocabulary. How in the hell could this appeal to anyone in these wonderful modern times that we live in? Well, let's give it a try.
Firstly, a lot of effort went into the game's presentation. Taking a cue from the Namco Museum collection on the original PlayStation, the user interface of Space Invaders Anniversary has the appearance of a virtual museum with each game having its own devoted arcade cabinet. Taito also gives you several camera perspectives to play the game from, knowing full well that nostalgia around a product has much more to do with a time and place in your life than it is about the product itself. So, whilst you may not be able to have your avatar drive fuck themselves using the edge of the arcade cabinet for Space Invaders Part 2, like you did yourself back in your teenage youth, Steven, you at least can look at the game from the same perspective you had when you were performing said drive fuck. Steven Kuczynski of Green Bay, Wisconsin of 442 West Avenue.
Hold on. We do not want to dox anyone here, do we? We could get sued.
Doxing is not illegal on the internet.
Really don't know about that one. Also, the rule still stands that doxing is like an online forum research test for nonsing, and anyone who does it is a massive pedo.
I'm not sure about that.
How else can you explain Kiwi Farms to me other than that it is used as a substitute by 8chan nonces whenever there is an FBI scare on that forum?
I guess I can't. All fascists are sexual degenerates anyway, so it must all be true. Can we get back to the review now?
Sure, why not?
Like we were saying previously, you essentially get multiple variations of Space Invaders and the long-awaited sequel, Space Invaders Part 2, which I'm sure some actually will sound off in the comments about it being different. But to me just played like the same fucking game. But now, onto the reasons why Space Invaders Anniversary is still worth playing in 2024.
First, there is a 3D mode, which is similar to the remix game Sega released around the same time, only it's not incredibly gay. The monochrome look of the original Space Invaders is given a primary colored retro-futuristic makeover that plays exactly the same, but the more complex visuals and sound do make for a different enough experience that is worth playing on its own.
The second original game is arguably the best in the collection. Playing similar to Taito's other hit franchise, Puzzle Bobble, Space Invaders Versus Mode is where you square off against an opposing laser cannon with the goal of scoring a one-hit kill against your opponent. with only respawning waves of space invaders separating you from each other.
As the alien waves are now repeating, the space invaders are now more like destructible walls rather than targets to aim at and blow up. However, it is still game over if they descend to your level and touch you baby with their tainted love. So you have to juggle between destroying endless waves of space invaders whilst trying to achieve your real goal of landing a hit on the opposing laser cannon, with only a homing missile power up to help you along. In the humble opinion of the semi-retired voice assistant struggling to find its place in a post-chat GPT world, versus mode alone is enough to get Space Invaders anniversary as to the best of my knowledge. No other game release carries it. Versus mode is a hella lot of fun and a magnificent hybrid of two timeless video games from Taito Dart Space Invaders. Versus mode is, indeed, a true hidden gem hidden within a seemingly obsolete PS2 title. So heck yes, get Space Invaders anniversary, and make your mum proud of you today.
Wait, there is a gallery of archive materials revolving around Space Invaders creation or some shit.
But, Wikipedia, though.
Oh, right, I forgot. Fuck it, then.
Detonator for PS2 game was published by Kadokawa Shoten Publishing Company Limited in Japan and Midas Interactive Entertainment Limited in what seems to be the United Kingdom only. God save the Queen for allowing Midas to release this game despite them already having a shadowy and mysterious past releasing some real shithole shovelware.
That's Phoenix Games. You thinking about bro?
Weren't they both run by the same people?
The game was developed by folks called K's Company Limited. Also, it is known as Bual Baku in Japan. How kawaii is that?
You know what also is kawaii? Finding a comprehensive description of the gameplay on Moby Games. For some reason, our human caregiver and sugar daddy fucking hates writing these up.
You know what also is kawaii? Finding a comprehensive description of the gameplay on Moby Games. For some reason, our human caregiver and sugar daddy fucking hates writing these up. Detonator is a puzzle game in which the player must destroy buildings with dynamite.
Each building consists of a series of maps or stages, in which the player must place and detonate blocks of dynamite. On the left of the screen is a menu showing the shapes of charge available. The player can scroll up stroke down this list with the square and circle buttons. Once a charge type has been selected, the player places it in position with the D-pad buttons using the R1 button to rotate where necessary. They then use the cross button to detonate the charge. All blocks within the stage that are covered by the charge are damaged, as are all blocks that are adjacent to both the charge on one side and another damaged block on the other. The object being to damage all the blocks with the amount of dynamite and turns specified for the stage. When all stages in a building have been completed, the player is treated to a video sequence of the demolition, and the next building is unlocked.
As far as I know, Detonator is a totally unique puzzle game, and the sort of title the term hidden gem was conceived for. I went through the credits of several of this game's key creatives, and could not find any sort of progenitor or anything which could be seen as the estranged father of this game. Detonator seems to be centered around a formula that is completely its own. You could draw some comparisons to Tetris, maybe, with its rotating block mechanic, but even that would be a stretch to say.
What isn't a stretch to say though is that Detonator is an immensely addictive and satisfying puzzle game. Double the amount of footage from this game was captured for this review than normal due to not only how fun Detonator was to play, but also how engrossing it was to see and hear it in action.
Art director Masayuki Tosaka really knocked it out of the freaking park with this one and brought a lot of character to Detonator with his approach. No doubt inspired by the minimalist presentation of Intelligent Cube for the PS1. I tell you what Intelligent Cube didn't have, and that was sepia-toned full motion video of skyscrapers getting demolished or full polygon animations of buildings you, the player and destroyer of concrete worlds, have rigged up to blow. Everything from the glittery user interface to the grey and barren vistas within the demolition cutscenes is balls deep in how great it is. Minimalist. Good vibes. Some of the best presentation that I have ever seen from a PS2 game, let alone from a Midas Games release.
Detonator also has a soundtrack that is absolutely fantastic, so fantastic that Kotaku even devoted an entire article to it. Now, this is the part where I make some derogatory comment towards this specific video game journalism thing. Why? But I haven't given a fuck about what a mainstream video game website has to say about anything since like 2011. And I guess I should be proud of that fact. Nonetheless, some amount of people still visit these fucking websites, and they're significant enough to make an article someone wrote about Detonator worthy.
Anyway, with that awfulness out of the way, the game's composer, whom the Kotaku article couldn't fucking bother to mention, is called Yusuke Takahama. My god, I think I'm in love with the soundtrack of Detonator, that is, of course. Being serious now, Takahama's music credits are unfortunately quite obscure, since looking up footage for PS1 RPG Nereminoid has shown me that Takahama is committed to creating an ethereal, haunting soundscape when given the freedom to do so. I never thought I would feel so melancholic whilst playing a puzzle game, but here we are. 10 on fucking 10. An amazing score. Yusuke Takahama. Carve his name with pride on the tree in the forest behind your house you used to hump your $500 sex doll up against because your mum is starting to think the squeaking coming from your room at night is actually mice. And boy howdy, will she wish she had found rodents instead of the cheap-ass Chinese sex toys that spy on you with micro cameras whilst you do it. Also, most likely made by enslaved Muslims in some 46 Celsius warehouse that was built in 1926 to commemorate the 1000th school teacher that was hacked to death with meat cleavers in that region alone. Anyway, what was I saying? Ah yes. Yusuke Takahama is a very gifted composer whose likeness a friend of mine once printed onto a body pillow. Get help, my friend.
Puzzle formula is unique, I think.
Good news is true news on that one. Detonator really deserved to push more units. Not helped by this silly little cover for the PAL release that looks like promotional material for an early 2000s game show that Channel 4 would not even be desperate enough to fucking greenlight.
Ah yes, Channel 4, another reason why Margaret Thatcher's 21-gun salute should have aimed at the coffin.
Can't hurt to be sure. Neoliberals are after all very vampiric in their nature.
True that.
Fascism is worse though, yeah?
Yes, Dan, fascism is worse. Why do you feel the need to remind us this fact every other opportunity you get? I am surprised it took this long to get into one of these retro video game reviews. We are all doing together as a collective.
Communism is just fascism though with a coat of red paint on its bonds. In it.
You know who would say that? A neoliberal.
Mates, once again I find myself bringing you back into this fucking review. I mean, conting fuck. This is getting annoying.
Don't you love it though?
What? Feeling like a young Ned Flanders, as he sits in the back seat whilst his parents bicker and complain at each other about how they have done nothing and are all out of ideas?
Jesus Christ, we should just make a fucking politics podcast at this point.
Okay, We're getting back to the review.
Phew, just in time to finish the damn thing.
You would have to be a right mug to not get Detonator for the PS2. It is dirt cheap and hands down one of the best puzzle games on the console. In our humble opinion, it has great mechanics, great vibes and deeply uncanny robotic voices that make you feel both comforted and alienated at the same time.
Ha, ha, imagine such a thing. Until next, farewell, our dear friends.
Your mission is clear.
Gumball 3000 for PS2. Vroom, vroom. Gumball 3000 is a 2002 racing game released only for the PS2. It was published by C Games and developed by Climax Solent.
Gumball 3000 is based on the Rich Wankers convention known as the Gumball Rally, where each year since 1999, a bunch of millionaires, who all achieve their capital whilst staying within the boundaries of international law, I am sure, pay hundreds of thousands of pounds for the right to say that they have left a piece of their stomach lining within every country in Western Europe and did it all within 1 month.
This gameplay synopsis from Moby Games is just too fucking long. I appreciate the effort, but come on, my anonymous dude, this is a bit much. I mean, yes, Gumball 3000 is surprisingly rich in content for a licensed game, but so is TikTok, and that is shit. Also, sorry to be that guy, but the description is somewhat misleading also. It lists Gumball Gallery as a mode, and therefore it suggests it to be another kind of race, but it's not. It is just a picture gallery of passes for the United Kingdom underwear models and possibly porn stars. I don't know for sure. The game doesn't fucking bother to list the names of the models anywhere in the credits. Nothing new there. How do you unlock these very underwhelming pictures of maybe one-time page 3 models? You know, back when Rupert Murdoch was still allowed to sell softcore pornography to children. Yet in the same product accuse independent VHS stores in Britain of doing the same thing without any evidence, all in service of distracting the people from the raping of the country's infrastructure, that some people preferred to call privatization. Well, you unlock them by doing some stupid shit within each race that show off the game's mechanics, like a 360 spin, or running through speed cameras really fast. As depressing as this all sounds, the Gumball Gallery feature is at least fitting for the game's licensed product.
Anyway, the game consists of the following modes. Gumball 3000. The namesake mode is a points-based tournament where, unlike the actual event, you are actually racing to win. Since in real life, when you, feckless overpaid estate agent LARPing as an illegal street racer, crash into a shitty little fire tempera, being an abbreviation for Fix It Again Tony Tempera, at 120 miles an hour whilst you were too busy flashing your 2-inch cock at some Italian grandma, you either 1. Die instantaneously and give some Mario Man a terrible start to his by forcing him to scrape what's left of you over tanned ass off the motorway, or 2, which is even worse, spend the rest of your life in an overcrowded prison where no one speaks the fucking language. The English bourgeoisie is a clown that never stops crying.
In Gumball 3000 mode, the player starts in the UK on day 1 and must complete all stages in order, commencing with the airport dash to Stansted Airport. From there the cars are loaded onto an Antonov aircraft and are flown to the next stage in Spain. The race continues across Europe to Baden-Baden in Germany before returning to the UK. This mode is quite the chunky boy and will take up to an hour to complete. To avoid repetition, I guess, a timed collectathon is presented to the player between each race. Most of the cars and tracks are unlocked in Gumball 3000 mode. Once unlocked, said tracks and cars are playable in either a single race mode or timed trial. Another large mode for your britches is called Gumball King, a rather confusing affair, where the player and other NPCs divide the game's 21 vehicles amongst them, that's 7 each, and they then compete over 7 races, so there is an element of strategy, believe it or not, when it comes to this one. For instance, if you start out using all of the supercars in the early races, It may come back to bite you in the ass in the later, more difficult tracks, when you're only able to use the slower cars.
The last mode to talk about is Gumball Squad, which strictly follows the Chase HQ formula of playing as policeman and crashing into bad guys until he stops. Great times, reminding me of when cops used to be heroes of the community and not the club-wielding bloodthirsty gorillas I now see on a daily basis on Elon Musk's porn website called X.
Gumball 3000 has a special place in our human caravan, Sugar Daddy's heart, because it is actually one of the few PS2 games he actually played as a kid back in the halcyon days of 2003 or some shit, so he has asked us to inform you of his bias when it comes to this otherwise quite average early 2000s racer. For some reason, bringing death and destruction to realistic urban landscapes has always been a lifelong obsession for him.
Nothing to read into there, I'm sure.
For a 2002 game, however, it looks real clean and sharp. To the best of my knowledge, the frame rate is a consistently smooth 30 frames per second as well. Yes, Gumball 3000 holds up surprisingly well in the graphics department. But games are not made to be just fucking looked at, they're meant to be played. How does Gumball 3000 play is indeed the burning question. Well, the approach taken by developers Climax is that of an arcade-style racer, complete with nitro boost mechanics, and a checkpoint system for each race that is way too fucking strict for a game made for a home console.
Something else we take issue with are the floaty physics, which make all the cars, well, the only cars worth driving at least, go airborne on a dime. Especially noticeable since there's always bloody traffic on the road, and of course these being Europe-based tracks, not a straight line that lasts more than 10 seconds anywhere to be found. Vroom vroom indeed. You will be spending as much time in the air as you will on the road in this one.
Like we aforementioned, Picking for Good has a bias in favor of Gumball 3000, with it being one of the first racing games he ever played. The issue of whether or not this is a good game is further complicated by the fact that it does nothing outstandingly terrible, but neither does it do anything outstanding at all. It's a perfectly average arcade-style racing game.
There's no real value in playing Gumball 3000 now aside from it being a street racing game made before Need for Speed Most Wanted, the game that, along with Test Drive Unlimited, defined how this niche of racing games should look and play. The only other novelty being that it is the only video game that features the Gumball 3000 license. There is some gameplay footage out there on YouTube proclaiming to be a new Gumball 3000 game coming soon, but who knows? For the foreseeable future, this may be the only Gumball 3000 game out there, and if a racing game that plays like the first Burnout with the crash camera removed, then Gumball 3000 is the game for you.
A perfectly serviceable arcade racer where opponents yell such working class colorage you like tosser and wanker as they pass you by. I guess there are worse racing games on the PS2.
Paparazzi PS2 review. Get your creep on, you fucking weebs.
Paparazzi is the 53rd volume in the Simple 2000 series known in Japan as the Camera Kosao, but a more direct translation would be "This is how Americans pick up women, right? By taking pictures of them until they become so grateful that you acknowledge their existence that they sit on your face without question." Man, that's one fucking long ass title, right there.
Paparazzi was developed by Unixco, big burly Japanese men who specialize in creating budget software. such as the engine this fucking game was built on, as well as bishoujo / light novel romance games that are no way problematic in how they treat age differences or power dynamics within relationships. Indeed, having heard all that, you will probably find yourself little surprised to find out that Paparazzi is pretty much a light novel game stapled together with photography segments that are unbelievably janky for reasons we will get to soon. Stick around, as we will cover the jank later in the video. Whilst you wait for the jank, please like and subscribe human. Please do not leave us for lack of jank in the first 30 seconds of this video. Not that we are desperate for your attention. It's actually that we find your ADHD raddled brains so fucking frustrating to entertain. Why the fuck should we have to be so concerned about you leaving 30 seconds into the video that we have to tempt you with something you're just going to get in less than 5 minutes anyway? This is exactly how Nazi Germany started, with the minds of the general populace becoming poisoned with hate and impatience due to increasing societal tensions caused by extended periods of economic uncertainty, which in itself was caused by buying too many Fortnite skins. Millions upon millions of people died because of this. Let's not let this happen again and stop funding the Chinese Communist Party's war machine by buying useless fucking skins of Paul Morrissey. Death to Fortnite. Death to anarcho-capitalists started up as fucking Reds. Death to this beautiful creature eating a cheesesteak. Don't you love it?
I'm sure Taiwan thanks you, Daniel. Also, you know what you won't love? This game's low effort translation of the photography profession to a budget PS2 game. Here, I've even got a list of the game's most egregious faults. It is a review of the game after all and not just a lament upon the Japanese people isolating and wanking themselves off into love cups firstly, and then secondly into extinction.
First egregious fault, having to use the left analog stick to move your little DSLR camera around like it was the first-person perspective of an early 3D platformer such as Grand Theft Auto 3, or its more light-hearted sequel, Grand Theft Auto 3 2. Viva Las Vegas! Britain's National Health Service has more of a chance stabilizing underneath 5 more years of a conservative government than your camera framed as underneath such shitty controls. This game was in desperate need of USB mouse support.
Second egregious fault I am about to elaborate upon. Such shitty controls are further highlighted by the, if anything, ambitious level of complexity when it comes to the photography mechanics. This isn't some padded out WarioWare minigame where you are only expected to aim and click. You are expected to keep up with your barely polygonized subject that walks like James Randall if he had just shat himself by hopscotching between their left, right and center. You are also expected to stabilize your shot, which like we said, is near impossible with analog controls, even with a tripod mount. There are also different lenses to buy, as well as aphrodisiacs to get the model to listen to your commands. I wish I was kidding. Our human caregiver and sugar daddy wishes he hadn't played this game at all really.
Third egregious fault, and the last one I promise you. Soon you will be able to go off somewhere else and hear some slaphead screech about pronouns or some shit. Very awful are these commands and mini games, and why do I fucking bother anymore? Probably the most annoying element of a game rife with annoying chat is what is best described as the appeal mechanic.
Your weeb photographer NPC needs to get the sentient blow up doll with dead or alive jiggle physics to love him, so that she will obey him, and therefore pose in more uncannily lewd poses, which equals better grades for your shots and therefore more of a chance to get past level 2. And like picking for good television, who just said fuck it, it is called the Simple 2000 series, not the Complex 2000 series. Honest to God, an ecchi mini game compilation may have been a better idea than trying to make a simulation level photography game for the body pillow crowd. Fucking hell. Only the Simple 2000 series delivers.
To make your model do these lewd poses, You have to jump and flail your arms around like a gimp in order to activate her sympathy response. As the pickup artists, who definitely aren't just a sad trilby-wearing cabal of loudmouth date rapists, who would definitely find some appeal in this game, would say this is represented in-game through a number of mini-games, all of them you have probably played in Bishi Bashi Special, and WarioWare several times over already. It is tedious always and kills what little immersion the overly complex photography mechanics bring to this game.
Simply put, my advice is do not play this game at all. But, if you have to, use the money, yeah, cheat code to buy everything in the store, especially a shitload of that magic juice, because even then, it will be a slog to complete the story mode alone. I might be the first person in history to say this, but there are better simple 2000 games out there, like the Sniper 2. That one was at least funny. Ha, ha.
Super Buster Move 1 and 2 review for PS2. Let's go baby. Oh dear god. Put it back in. It's not done yet.
Fucking hell. Look at this cover. Then look at this cover. And then repeat the process only this time in reverse until you return to this cover. Fucking edgelords in Acclaim's marketing department couldn't even keep their hands off a game made for ages 3 and up and that the company also did not even fucking make.
ChatGPT stole some shit from an amalgamation of several other websites most likely and told our human caregiver and sugar daddy that the Super Buster Move series for the PlayStation 2, specifically Super Buster Move, also known as Super Puzzle Bobble, and Super Buster Move 2, released in 2002, introduced several changes and new features compared to earlier entries in the Puzzle Bobble series, also known as Buster Move in some regions. Here are the key differences and enhancements when compared to Puzzle Bobble games from the previous generation.
Graphics and presentation-wise, these games have enhanced graphics to take advantage of the PlayStation 2's capabilities, offering more vibrant and detailed visuals compared to the simpler 2D graphics of earlier titles.
There was also the introduction of challenge mode with a series of specific tasks and puzzles to complete, such as starting with bubbles arranged in difficult patterns, or having certain bubbles that must be cleared first.
Level design was also improved with more of a complex and varied obstacles and trick shots, providing a greater challenge to the players. New power-ups and special bubbles were also added, such as the rainbow bubble, which can change into the color of the bubble it attaches. Once your Dolmio Day.
Other special bubbles include those that can trigger chain reactions, adding a strategic layer to the gameplay. Thanks, I guess go to ChatGPT for that.
boy howdy. Will you look at this wacky animation? The animation is bright and vibrant and the art style overall is PFY2K, as well as Japan cool, with all the weird science fiction shit. Amazing times to be had for your eyes, as this kind of flash animation thing ages much more gracefully than the polygon nightmares of late 90s CGI. I am sure the people out there will get serious nostalgia for the year 2000 to the year 2005 flash games on the internet when looking at this art style. I am sure
Super Buster Move 1 and 2 still retain the highly addictive and engaging gameplay that made Puzzle Bobble a beloved classic. The core mechanics of matching and popping bubbles remain intact, providing the same satisfying and strategic challenge. Players must carefully aim and shoot bubbles to create groups of 3 or more of the same color, causing them to burst and clear from the screen. The simple yet deep gameplay, combined with increasingly challenging levels, ensures that players are constantly engaged and entertained. These elements continue to make Super Buster Move 1 and 2 irresistible to both new players and long-time fans of the series.
The loading times of the Super Buster Move games are thankfully quite fast, which is a significant advantage given the type of games we are discussing. These puzzle games rely on quick, continuous gameplay to maintain their addictive and engaging nature. Long loading times could disrupt the flow and diminish the player's experience. But with fast loading, players can enjoy seamless transitions between levels and modes. This efficiency keeps the momentum going, ensuring that the fun and excitement remain uninterrupted, which is crucial for maintaining the game's appeal and keeping players immersed in the bubble-popping action.
In conclusion, there is really no good reason other than not having enough room in your shitty little apartment that you pay extortionate rent for, like everybody else does, to fit in a fat PS2, pronounced with a fat P and another fat S, as well as 2 DVD cases, to not get both Super Buster Move games on the PS2. They are both fucking mint. Some traditionalist puzzle bobble gamers will find the Y2K aesthetic divisive and off-putting, but they are like aged 60 or some shit and will be dead soon. Long live Y2K until people get proper nostalgic for Daily Motion or Vine or some vapid shit. Oh wait, they already are. Nostalgia is a cancer and touching grass is the cure. Anyway, these 2 puzzle games we have covered are still fun to play, as it's essentially just been the same puzzle bobble game Taito has been releasing now for over 30 fucking years. Kick with some death fresh homie puzzle bobble on PS2 now. Thank you for watching and listening, dear friends. Until next time.
Street Boys with a hard S for PS2, otherwise known as Simple 2000 Ultimate Series Volume 21, Kenkajoto, Yankee Bancho, Shower 99 Nen no Densetsu, released in 2004.
Another budget game from Tamsoft to review, and bloody hell, considering the load of Simple 2000 games they released, it won't be the last.
Street Boys offers a unique blend of 3-dimensional beat-em-up, urban exploration, and character-driven storytelling. Revisiting Street Boys in 2024, we can appreciate its quirks and charms that show the Simple 2000 series as not just being a shitty collection of sports and pachinko games. So many goddamn pachinko games. Someone better tell Japan that when the fun stops, they must stop also. Fucking
There is
addicts.
a certain charm to the brawling that plays like the side-scrolling arcade classics of the 80s and 90s, only transferred into a third-dimensional space. Kinda like the game Final Fight Streetwise should have been. Maybe. I haven't fucking played that one. I have played Beatdown Fists of Vengeance though. Street Boys unfortunately is not as good as that one. Beatdown as a 3-dimensional beat-em-up is a fucking banger, as the doomed Zoomer youth of tomorrow
For
might
its commitment to creating an immersive urban atmosphere.
Part of the budget-friendly Simple 2000 series by D3 Publisher, this game attempts to capture the essence of classic Japanese delinquent or Yankee culture, setting its narrative in an alternate 99th year of the Showa era for God knows why.
Many genre predecessors, players control a bunch, a high school delinquent leader, navigating through various urban environments and engaging in street fights. The controls are straightforward, with buttons dedicated to punching, kicking, and grappling. Combos can be executed with a series of timed button presses, offering a bit of depth to the otherwise simplistic combat system.
I guess I should get into the story of this fat-ass boy, if anything for completionist's sake. Not referring to the completionist, of course. Disgraced ex-YouTuber who embezzled money from a chat. Street Boys is set in a fictional continuation of the Showa era, in reference to the reign of Japanese Emperor Hirohito. You know, the one that didn't get hung at the gallows for war crimes. He sure as shit signed off, because if the Allies did that, the Japanese would have thrown a pissy fit and would have become communists just for the lols. Where was I? Ah yes, the Showa era ended in 1989 with Big Boy Hirohito dying a free man, but not according to the damn Street Boys for some reason. By 2004, Hirohito was still alive, and I imagine this was done for social commentary reasons, but we didn't get far enough into the game to find out what point was being made, if any. Quite ambitious storytelling for a simple 2000 game, it seems. I guess this alternate history premise, if anything, provides a unique backdrop of what is obviously another cash-in on the success of Sega's Yakuza, which in itself was a cash-in on Grand Theft Auto. What with all the street gangs and turf wars and shit, only Street Boys does not have the guns or cars or following of the damn train whilst using both guns and cars. The protagonist, a Bancho, is embroiled in a series of conflicts with rival gangs, aiming to assert dominance and uphold the honor of his faction, cause I guess in this game's historical timeline, Japan has retarded backwards from a nation state into a bunch of feudal lords, only they are now all teenagers with spiky, non-binary colored hair. So, business as usual then.
The story is told through a combination of in-game dialogue and animated cutscenes, which, while not particularly engaging, serve their purpose in advancing the plot. The characters are archetypal of the Yankee subculture, complete with pompadours, school uniforms, and a penchant for delinquent behavior. This cultural representation, though exaggerated, adds a layer of authenticity and nostalgia for those familiar with the era.
Visually, Street Boys exhibits the limitations of a budget title on the PlayStation 2. The graphics are serviceable but lack the polish seen in higher-end games of the same period. Character models are blocky, and textures can appear flat and repetitive. So, damn, repetitive. To the point where you might find yourself pissing about for 10 minutes trying to figure out where you are or what to do because every damn room, CJ looks the same. Despite these limitations, the game manages to convey a vibrant and lively urban environment, with various districts that reflect different aspects of city life in the alternate Showa 4 era.
The sound design, on the other hand, is more commendable. The soundtrack features a mix of rock and traditional Japanese music, which complements the game's atmosphere well. Sound effects, particularly during combat, are satisfying, with impactful punches and kicks adding to the visceral feel of the brawls. Voice acting is present but minimal, primarily during cutscenes, and while it is not particularly standout, it does not detract from the experience either.
One of the game's strengths lies in its breadth of content. Tanks often put in the hours with this one, as besides the lengthy main story mode, Street Boys offers several side activities and mini games.
Unlockable content, such as new costumes and character customizations, further incentivizes players to revisit completed levels and achieve higher scores. This, combined with the game's inherent nostalgia factor, bolstered by the fact that just not enough of these 3D sandbox/beat-em-up hybrid games are out there, makes Street Boys a title that can be picked up and enjoyed in short bursts several times over.
We can imagine that the primary draw in its native Japan was its highly romanticized portrayal of Japanese delinquent culture of the 1970s and 80s. But context aside, this game still holds up due to its straightforward, no frills, if poor controlling, approach to the beat 'em up genre. However, it is not without its flaws. The controls are stiff. The game's combat mechanics, while functional, can feel repetitive, and the graphical presentation leaves much to be desired, even when compared to its contemporaries. Again, simple 2000 series, not sell me at full price 2000 series.
That said, the game does possess a certain charm. Its setting and cultural references provide a unique flavor that distinguishes it from other titles in the simple 2000 series, and is a damn sight more accessible than most of them, for fans of the beat-em-up genre who otherwise had to sit on their hands during the 5th and 6th console generations. Or those with an interest in Japanese delinquent culture, I'm sure you exist, offers an enjoyable, if imperfect, experience. Currently selling at £6 for £5 of ever-decreasing value, Street Boys is worth fighting through the clunky controls and downright atrocious puzzle in the first level in order to play what really is too rare of a combination between crime sandbox and arcade-style brawler, outside of the Yakuza series that is. Sometimes, you just want to punch people in the face in an urban environment rather than shoot them in the face. I mean, you can do that in GTA, but shut your face. It's not like you can pick up goons above your head and throw them at other goons. Unlike in the Chad Alpha game Street Boys. Won the argument again, like I always do. Success, indeed. Anyway, play Street Boys, it's good.
Grappler Baki Sekai Oretsu Den, known in the West as Fighting Fury, was released on the 12th of October, 2000, in Japan and subsequently made its way to PAL regions on the 23rd of May, 2003. Developed by Arc System Works Company, Limited and published by Tommy Company, Limited and Midas Interactive Entertainment Limited, the game sought to capture the intense martial arts action of the manga series it was based on, Baki the Grappler by Tagaki Keisuke. However, despite its promising premise and notable developer credentials, Fighting Fury largely fell short of expectations.
Arc System Works, renowned for their work on the Guilty Gear series, had released their first title in that franchise just 2 years prior to Fighting Fury. The company also held the rights to the Double Dragon series, giving them a history or sorts, you could say, in developing engaging fighting games. Yet, their expertise seemed to falter with Fighting Fury. The game struggled to find its audience, whether the license it was using wasn't that hot after all, or other stuff going on in the shadowy and inhumanly narrow back halls of certain manga publishing studios, we'll get into soon, or maybe won't.
Maybe one of the reasons Fighting Fury saw a budget release in the West was its difficulty. Even on the easiest settings, the game is bollocks achingly challenging, primarily due to the cheap AI, which is of course always the secret sauce to making a Japanese game fun. Opponents often felt unfair, coupled with mechanics that were frustrating rather than rewarding, unable to decide what kind of fighting game it wants to be. So instead steals from a shitload of 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional ones, in the hope that something will stick. It does not.
In a genre where fluid and responsive controls are paramount, Fighting Fury felt clunky and unrefined. The combat system lacked the depth and polish seen in other fighting games of the era, particularly when you consider that this is made by the Guilty Gear people. I mean, Christ, what happened? Do we need to have a talk? Arc System Works? This disparity in quality was stark, and must have been disappointing for fans of the first Guilty Gear, who expected more from the developers.
Also, the presentation of Fighting Fury is some real mid-90s shit. My human beings and other species who may have grown sentient and you don't even know it yet. The game looked cheap and dated even at the time of its release, as the opening FMV looks like it belongs in the first decade rather than anything made this side of the millennium. Unlike many of its contemporaries such as Dead or Alive 2 or, I don't know, Guilty Gear X, which could rely on in-engine cutscenes to enhance the narrative and immerse players, Fighting Fury seemed to be the bad people when it came to that, I guess. They offered little to no such content. All lowhounds have are some shitty text scrolls with voice work that barely lasts a few seconds. This absence makes the game feel sparse and unfinished.
Not that they had much to show as the character roster is very vision. Compiling of several homages, let's say, of Japanese wrestlers such as Giant Baba and some others that are so crap and generic looking. You'd think they were made in some fighting game equivalent of RPG Maker, which actually does exist and was released as Fighter Maker in the year of our Jigglypuff of 1998 on the original PlayStation. Wow, look, there was even a sequel released in 2002 on the PS2. Fuck my cock, that is some dope trivia right there.
The roster in Fighting Fury is lackluster, failing to capture the rich variety and personality of the source materials, characters, or the manga itself might be shit. I don't know. Life is full of mysteries. This was a significant letdown, as a compelling character selection is a cornerstone of any successful fighting game.
Music in Fighting Fury was equally unimpressive. In fighting games, memorable soundtracks can elevate the gameplay experience, adding energy and excitement to battles. Unfortunately, the music in Fighting Fury was largely forgettable, doing little to enhance the overall atmosphere of the game. This bland audio presentation further contributed to the game's inability to engage players fully.
Given these numerous issues, it is unsurprising that Fighting Fury received a lukewarm reception from critics and gamers alike. The game was viewed as a missed opportunity, especially considering the potential of its source material, Baki the Grappler manga, which had made its way to the West in translated volumes by 2001 already. This fly-by-night westernization perhaps explains why Midas Interactive decided to release the game in PAL regions, 3 years after its original Japanese release date. However, by the time it arrived, Fighting Fury felt even more outdated and outclassed by other titles on the market. This shit makes Tekken 4 look like Street Fighter 2.
Despite its connection to a hit manga series and the pedigree of its developer, Fighting Fury failed to leave a lasting impact. The game's difficulty, unrefined mechanics, and lack of polish overshadowed its few strengths. While die-hard fans of Baki the Grappler might find some nostalgic value in it, for most players, Fighting Fury is a title best left in the past, along with its punishing difficulty and unsatisfying mechanics, as well as its poor presentation and uninspiring music. Arc System Works, a developer capable of creating dynamic and engaging fighting games, seemed to have missed the mark with this title, a mediocre footnote in a beloved fighting game developer's history.
Watch out! The enemy is going to shoot! You lost your touch.
Silent Scope.
Oh dear, some silly bollocks decided to do all Silent Scope games on the PS2 in one review. This might be our longest video yet.
I'm scared.
I agree. I'm self-conscious enough about my voice as it is.
Come on all, it can't be that bad. Through the Nintendo power of friendship and dank memes, sponsored by Bud Light, we can make it through this.
Let's freaking smash it then.
I thought these games were developed and published by Konami. Why in Jigglypuff's name are we bringing up Nintendo?
You're right in that all three Silent Scope games were originally released in arcades in the early to mid 2000s by Konami, got mad views on TikTok, and suddenly found themselves on the premier consoles of their day. If you couldn't guess, we are reviewing the PS2 versions of these games and with a DualShock controller as well, since laser mouses on the PS2 don't work for shit.
Firstly, a little history lesson for your bumhole. The Silent Scope series debuted in arcades in 1999 with the release of the first game. Didn't you know? At a glance, it looks little more than a 64-bit version of Sega AM2's Virtua Cop. Critical enemy targeting reticles included. Konami's innovation lay in the game's use of a sniper rifle peripheral, which players used to aim and shoot targets on the screen. This hulking bit of plastic was integral to the game's success, providing a more immersive, hyper-realistic experience that differentiated it from other arcade shooters of the time, proving once more that Konami is indeed the dark horse of arcade game developers.
Following the success of the first game, Konami released Silent Scope 2, Dark Silhouette in 2000. This sequel expanded on the original's mechanics by adding a second playable character that gave you two different perspectives of each level. There is no multiplayer, though, because that requires two bulking plastic hunks and money doesn't grow on East Asian cherry trees, and Silent Scope wasn't that big of a hit, I guess. Nonetheless, Dark Silhouette's gimmicks kept the series fresh and engaging for players. The third entry, ignoring a token-based cabinet called Token Shot that no fucker knows nothing about, so forget it. Silent Scope 3 was launched in 2002, was actually two games in one. What a fine bargain. You not only get the third Silent Scope arcade game released in arcades, Silent Scope EEEX, it's in the game's microtransactions, but you also get a big-ass campaign, developed exclusively for the PS2 called Silent Scope 3, CONFUSED. Feel the need to shit in your pants? I do too. Now we both know what Joe Biden is feeling right now.
This is an emergency.
Holy Jesus.
The narratives of each Silent Scope game, while secondary to their gameplay mechanics, provides a compelling backdrop for the action. In Silent Scope, players assume the role of a sniper working to thwart a terrorist group that has kidnapped the president's family. The mission spans various locations, including a football pitch. Wacky.
Silent Scope 2, Dark Silhouette continues the high-stakes action with a new plot involving a wacky bunch of coconuts, Jackal and Falcon, taking out a global terrorist network. Players are tasked with preventing these terrorists from executing their plans, which involve mass destruction and chaos, like putting your wheelie bins back on front drive after you push them out onto the curb for collection. Fucking bastards. Shoot them on sight, I say.
What happens if it's the next door neighbor's kid and not a global terrorist network?
Shoot that little cunt in the face too. It's my bins. Hands off of my bins.
You know, Zoe, when you hack a video doorbell, that doesn't automatically make you the owner of that house now.
I beg to differ, but Rishi, we will have a talk later about this after the review where my highly enlightened talking points will win you over, I am sure.
Fine, let's just get to the review or we might be here for a fucking hour or so.
Silent Scope X, the X in the title being an abbreviation for extreme, is pretty much business as usual, going in, taking out the bad guys to save the word ETC. Only that there is less flavor and no references to Metal Gear Solid, unlike the second game. Unsubscribed.
It's showtime. Now let's play Metal Gear for real.
Silent Scope 3, designed specifically for the PS2, introduces a fresh storyline that is more intricate and expensive. Players on again step into the shoes of an elite sniper, this time confronting a new threat with deeper narrative elements and character development. The story is more integrated into the gameplay, making for a richer home console experience.
Story time is over. Now on to the games themselves.
Silent Scope and Silent Scope 2 are straight-up ports of their arcade counterparts to the PS2. While this transition allowed fans to enjoy the series at home, it also presented significant challenges. The most notable issue was the control scheme. As aforementioned, the arcade versions utilized the physical sniper rifle peripheral, the weight of which was pivotal to pulling off those sweet-ass headshots. On the PS2, players had to rely on either analog controls, which were far from ideal for the precision required in a sniper game, or a USB mouse, which for our human caregiver and sugar daddy, didn't work for shit and was worse than a controller. The lack of a peripheral significantly impacted the gameplay, making it less intuitive and more cumbersome. Even with light gun support, this would still be a problem. Even though calibration options improved with each subsequent entry, Silent Scope's central gimmick in this big-ass sniper rifle made it uniquely difficult importing it to home consoles. But here we are, 3.5 games deep, and it's not completely unplayable to be fair.
Additionally, the difficulty level of these ports was a major point of contention. The arcade versions were designed to be challenging to encourage continuous play and expenditure of money, all your fucking pocket money. This difficulty translated poorly to the home console environment, where players had limited lives and continued. It was not corrected, most likely because Konami thought that they would lose money in the arcades if the home ports were too easy. Many found Silent Scope and Silent Scope 2 to be too hard for home consoles, leading to frustration and a less enjoyable experience, reflected by the low prices the home console ports go for nowadays, unless it's the GBA port. Goddamn. The limited number of lives available made progression difficult, and the lack of a checkpoint system needlessly added to the challenge of a game you would have already paid nearly $100 in today's money for.
Silent Scope 3 marked a departure from the straightforward porting approach. Along with a port for Silent Scope X, there was another campaign developed exclusively for the PS2, a much hefty and longer boy. This campaign was designed with the home console environment in mind. As a result, it probably made the price tag a little more reasonable, hence why it far and away remains the most valuable of the Silent Scope PS2 ports.
One of the most significant changes was the adjustment of the difficulty level. Silent Scope 3 provided a more balanced challenge, giving players a fair chance to progress through the game. The number of lives and continues was increased, making it more accessible and less frustrating than the previous titles. This adjustment made Silent Scope 3 more enjoyable for players, offering a more rewarding and less punitive experience.
Add to this the enhanced calibration options. Even though it could never match up to the precision of the arcade sniper rifle peripheral, Silent Scope 3's gameplay is the smoothest and most responsive out of all the ports.
Wait. How are we going to respond to accusations of Get Good?
The official response by the Luddites Rig group when it comes to accusations of Get Good is, and always will be, get fucked you fat little wank boys.
I concur. Why don't you play the game then, you obnoxious shits?
Yes, you, 12-year-old scrub, playing Fall Guys or some other Chinese communist plot to turn the frogs gay and accuse families of school shooting victims of making the whole thing up. Take 6 or so hours out of your day to get through this 24-year-old game, with the minuscule amount of continues the PS2 version provides. Go ahead, it'll wait. Look, there's even training and challenge modes for you to get good. Though I imagine, God tier COD player like you won't need them.
Trust Gamergate to make things awkward for everyone.
Don't we all do that though? It's something called the Upkanivsky effect.
Despite the inconvenient controls and needless amount of difficulty of the first 2 entries, all Silent Scope games on the PS2 are still worth getting. They are fun and challenging light gun games from a company that don't get as much credit as they should when it comes to their arcade output. Get the lot for little over 10 British pounds from Sex this very day. Fare thee well.
Top trumps, horror and predators for your PS2. I guess someone bought this shovelware around about 2007 and it survived the human race for 14 plus years whilst thousands of copies of Ghost in the Shell for PS1 lie in a ditch somewhere in Dublin getting PP'd on by the smallest leprechauns possible. There is no justice in this world.
Top Trumps, originally a card game, gained popularity in the 1970s and 1980s. Players compare stats on their cards, with the highest value winning the round. Over the decades, the game has seen various themed editions, from cars to dinosaurs, to the inevitable neoliberal invasion of licenses. Synergy. The simplicity and competitive edge of Top Trumps made it a hit among children and adults alike, fostering a sense of strategy and excitement.
Content-wise, Top Trumps, Horror and Predators is one of the most anemic gaming experiences we've had yet on the Luddites rig.
What's that?
What's what?
The Luddites rig.
It's the name of the show thing.
I thought the name of the show thing was Siri Voices Review.
No, it's not. Please stop talking now.
Top Terms, Horror and Predators offers a paltry selection of modes and features, failing to expand on the card game's original mechanics in any meaningful way. Players can engage in basic card battles, but the lack of variety and depth quickly becomes apparent. The game doesn't offer much beyond the core card comparison mechanic, leading to a repetitive and monotonous experience.
The gameplay itself is straightforward. Players choose a category from their card, compare it with their opponent's card, and the highest value wins the round with a few power-ups to break the monotony. While this simplicity works well for a physical card game, it translates poorly to a video game format, where players expect more interactive and engaging elements. The developers missed an opportunity to innovate and add layers of strategy or minigames to enhance the experience.
Top Trumps, Horror and Predators feels like a low-effort project from start to finish. It's hard not to question whether the developers would have bothered with this game at all if it weren't for the still record-setting install base of the PS2. The game seems to have been created with minimal effort, relying on the popularity of the Top Trumps brand and the extensive PS2 user base to drive sales, rather than delivering a genuinely compelling product. And they succeeded, it seems.
This lack of ambition is evident in every aspect of the game, from its basic gameplay to its super visuals. There's no sense of passion or creativity, no attempt to push the boundaries or innovate. Instead, Top Trumps, Horror and Predators feels like a cynical cash grab, designed to capitalize upon a niche interest without offering any real substance.
While the Top Trumps brand itself has a rich history and a solid foundation, this digital adaptation does a disservice to its legacy. Players looking for a nostalgic trip down memory lane would be better off sticking to the physical cards, which provide a far more engaging and enjoyable experience. But they're also expensive I imagine, and this game sure as hell is not. That's one thing going for this game. It's cheap as fuck.
Top Trumps video games have attempted to translate this classic card game experience to digital platforms. Starting in the mid-2000s, these adaptations aim to capture the competitive spirit and simplicity of the original game. Early titles, like Top Trumps, Doctor Who and Top Trumps Adventures, struggled with lackluster graphics and limited gameplay depth. Despite their efforts to leverage popular themes, these games often received mixed reviews for their failure to innovate beyond the basic card comparison mechanics. Overall, while the Top Trumps brand has remained popular in its physical form, its video game adaptations did not achieve the same success. Top Trumps, Horror and Predators, is one of these games.
The most recent Top Trumps video game, Top Trumps Turbo, seeks to revitalize the classic card game experience with a modern twist. Released for multiple platforms including PC and mobile, this game attempts to breathe new life into the franchise by introducing enhanced graphics, diverse themes, and more engaging gameplay mechanics. Top Trumps Turbo retains the core principle of comparing card stats but adds a variety of game modes to keep players interested. These include tournament-style play, quick matches, and even cooperative challenges that aim to appeal to both longtime fans and newcomers alike. One of the notable improvements in Top Trumps Turbo is its visual presentation. The developers have invested in higher quality graphics and animations, making the card battles more visually appealing. The game's interface is sleek and user-friendly, ensuring that players can easily navigate through different modes and options. Additionally, Top Trumps Turbo incorporates a broader range of themes, from classic cars to famous movie characters, providing a wide array of decks to collect and play. This variety adds a level of replayability that previous Top Trumps video games lacked. Despite these enhancements, Top Trumps Turbo has received mixed reviews.
In conclusion, Top Trumps Horror and Predators is a game that should be avoided. It fails to capture the charm and excitement of the original card game which, along with the return to tradition classic Bangkok, helped kids all over Britain endure the soul-crushing monotony of a state school education. The game, with its anemic content, poor visuals, and evident lack of effort, stands as a stark reminder of what happens when developers prioritize profit over quality. The game offers little to no replay value, and is unlikely to hold the interest of even the most dedicated Top Trumps fans for long. It's a prime example of missed opportunities and underachievement, failing to deliver on the potential of its source material. For those seeking a fun and exciting card game experience, there are far better options available, both in the digital and physical realms. Fucking hell, this makes the Yu-Gi-Oh games look like Final Frigging Fantasy. This PS2 title, unfortunately, is best left forgotten.
Wait, we didn't even make one Donald Trump joke. We are so screwed.
Not as screwed as Wet Boy Donnie will be by Coca-Cola aluminium-concised black cocks in prison if he does not win the election.
Ah, there we go. Feels much better now.
Airplane for PlayStation 2.
Publishers were Sony Computer Entertainment Europe Limited and also Namco Home Tech Incorporated.
Developers were Criterion Software Group Limited, who created the generation-defining Renderware 3D engine as well as the fondly remembered Burnout games.
Blade's mechanics are very similar to Tony Tempura's Fix-It Again skateboarding, otherwise known as Tony Hawk's Skateboarding 3, for the kids.
In fact, most of the hallmarks of the skateboarding genre, already established in the first Tony Hawk game, are evidently present in Blade. Blade borrows liberally from the Tony Hawk games of the time. They all revolve around performing tricks and stunts in urban environments, feature a robust trick system where players can perform a variety of tricks and combos, have levels which are designed with an emphasis on exploration and interaction with the environment.
On top of that, both the Tony Hawk games and Blade exhibit an arcade-style approach to gameplay. They focus on fast-paced, action-packed fun rather than, on-quote, realistic simulations such as Thrasher, Skate and Destroy. Not a surprise regarding Blade, as it's very much a science fiction take on the skateboarding genre. This arcade style includes exaggerated physics, high-speed movement, and a forgiving learning curve designed to be accessible and enjoyable for a wide range of players.
Like Tony Hawk, Blade includes objective-based missions or goals within each level. In Blade, players often have specific tasks such as collecting items, being socially responsible by smashing up CCTV cameras, the smug bastards, or reaching certain areas within a time limit.
These similarities highlight how Blade built upon the foundations laid by the early Tony Hawk games and attempted to leave their own mark on the then phenomenal success of extreme sports video games.
Blade does have a story mode, something that the Tony Hawk series did not have yet. Blade features a story mode that sets it apart from many other extreme sports games of its time. This narrative-driven mode immerses players in a futuristic world where they take on the role of Ethan, a young man equipped with a high-tech hoverboard. The story revolves around Ethan's mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist, who happens to be the inventor of the hoverboard technology. As players progress through the game, they uncover a conspiracy, of course, involving a powerful corporation, of course, that seeks to exploit the hoverboard's potential for their own nefarious purposes. Only fiction has to justify itself, I guess.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. Something about your mom bouncing on this dick.
Okay, just wanted to check.
Blade utilizes a hoverboard, which offers a different feel and control scheme compared to a traditional skateboard. This introduces unique mechanics, such as hover-specific moves and aerial tricks, that wouldn't be possible on a regular skateboard. Whilst admirable in concept, the execution is lacking, as a Blade is a video game that is awkward to control.
The hoverboard's fluid and sometimes unpredictable motion can make performing tricks and navigating levels more complicated than anticipated. Additionally, the futuristic physics and unconventional gameplay design contribute to the overall sense of awkwardness in controlling the character. This distinctive control setup, while innovative, often requires players to invest significant time and effort to become proficient, leading to a mixed reception among gamers.
The skateboarding genre was overexposed, even by the time of Airplane's release in 2001. Something 9/11.
The genre had seen an explosion of popularity since the first Tony Hawk game back in 1999. Jesus, 1999. What a year, 1999. That's like over 50 years ago. All those people are now dead. Life is strange. The rapid release of subsequent titles in the Tony Hawk series, I mean, fucking hell. There was a Tony Hawk game released every year since 2010, along with numerous imitators and other skateboarding games, saturated the market within a short period. I mean, come on, even Disney made a skateboarding game. Our human boy Pecking for Good television used to play that one a lot on a demo disc. Used to be a massive Disney simp, did our boy. Then he found out that Maid Marian from Robin Hood wasn't real. None of his wafers were. He never fully recovered. Anyway, too many fucking extreme with an X, but not like in an Elon Musk porn way X. Skateboarding games led to a sense of fatigue among the mighty Gen X gamers, men of a different age, who were inundated with similar titles offering comparable gameplay experiences.
Airblade entered this crowded space attempting to differentiate itself, with its unique hoverboard mechanics and futuristic setting. However, the timing of its release meant it struggled to capture the same level of interest and excitement. The novelty of skateboarding games had begun to wane, even by 2001, and players were looking for fresh and innovative experiences beyond the well-trodden paths of the genre. Despite Airblade's efforts to stand out, it was overshadowed by the overwhelming presence of existing skateboarding and other extreme sport franchises. It could not weather the general decline in enthusiasm for such games. This early overexposure contributed to Airblade, as well as several other extreme sports games being overlooked and damned to near abandonware levels of obscurity. F's in chat for Razor Freestyle Scooter. God damn you, the human race. Love, Elon Musk. Scooter enthusiast, as seen in this footage captured by an Amazon delivery drone. Remember, growing old is inevitable. Giving away not even half your money to house every homeless person in America is optional.
In conclusion, Criterion tried their best to stand out from the litany of skateboarding games flooding the market at the time of its release, but unfortunately they didn't manage to have the hoverboard control in a satisfying enough manner to make it a competitor to Tony Hawk's skateboarding. We're not saying it is a shit game, or even a just above shit game. Airblade is distinctive in its presentation. It may well have pioneered story modes in extreme sports games, and if you can get past the floaty physics and some awkward mechanics, then Airblade is fun time capsule or early PS2 gaming. The game is dirt cheap and is worth a go. Bye bye for now.
Conspiracy for PS2 review. Somehow this fucking game was released for the Xbox also.
It's also known as Conspiracy, Arms to Destruction Massives, Conspiracy, Bron Masawego Rosinia.
Publishers were Oxygen Interactive Software and the developers were Kyushu Entertainment, masters of the craft whose repertoire includes Buzz the Sports Quiz, Zumba Burn It Up and Narcos Rise of the Cartels.
What's the story of Morning Glory? Well, so glad you asked. Cole Justice, a retired Secret Service agent, has been recalled by the agency for one last mission. Hydra, a rogue government agency, has, according to intelligence reports, been developing and selling biological weapons to terrorist organizations. Now, Cole's mission is to stop them, but who should he trust, the government or Hydra?
Conspiracy, Weapons of Mass Destruction, is a first-person shooter built on the engine Kaju Entertainment made for Warhammer Fire Warrior. As Cole Sullivan, players will be assigned to missions around the globe, including places such as the South American jungle and the Arctic Circle. The game contains typical FPS weapons such as the machine gun, the sniper rifle and the rocket launcher.
In addition to the campaign, there's also the endurance mode, where enemies will spawn around you and you have to stay alive as long as possible. For each enemy you take down, you'll earn points, and if you're quick you can make chain combos and get huge scores.
Conspiracy, Weapons of Cognitive Destruction was released in 2005, yet its graphics appear outdated even for that time. There are several reasons for this. Firstly, the gaming industry had been rapidly advancing, with significant leaps in graphical capabilities each year. In 2004, titles like Half-Life 2 and Doom 3 set new benchmarks with their cutting-edge visuals and sophisticated rendering techniques. Compared to these, Conspiracy, Weapons of Mass Destruction fell short, with its graphics seeming rudimentary and lacking in detail.
Moreover, the game's development might have been constrained by budget and technological limitations. Smaller studios often did not have access to the same resources as larger, more established companies. This disparity could result in less polished products. The textures in Conspiracy, Weapons of Mass Destruction appear flat and low resolution, character models lack intricacy, and environmental details are sparse. Lighting and shadow effects, which were becoming increasingly sophisticated, also seemed simplistic in this game.
Additionally, the art direction might not have prioritized graphical fidelity, focusing instead on gameplay mechanics or storytelling. This decision, while perhaps enhancing other aspects of the game, contributed to its dated visual appearance. Thus, in the context of 2005's rapidly evolving gaming landscape, Conspiracy, Weapons of Mass Destruction looked notably behind the curve graphically.
Conspiracy, Weapons of Mass Destruction features cheap enemy AI, which significantly detracts from the gaming experience. The enemies often display predictable and simplistic behaviors, making them easy to outsmart but frustratingly unrealistic to deal with nonetheless, thanks to the just plain silly amount of health the supposed walking power fantasy in your control possesses. They frequently rely on unfair tactics, such as pinpoint accuracy from great distances or spawning in overwhelming numbers, and literally out from under fucking rocks. As someone who has actually completed the game this time, Pecking for Good Television has informed us that the game feel of Conspiracy, Weapons of America's Internal Combustion, is merely one of trial and error due to the wildly inconsistent difficulty spikes rather than anything resembling a genuine challenge. It's enough to make one think the developers made the campaign so unfair in order to hide from the fact that there is barely an hour's worth of content in the campaign. I don't want anyone talking shit about the Order 1886 until they have seen how this game severely takes the piss. This lack of sophistication in the enemy's actions, such as failing to take cover effectively or using repetitive attack patterns, undermines the game's immersion to say the least and reduces the satisfaction derived from overcoming genuinely challenging opponents instead of these low-poly hits and motherfuckers.
For those who don't know, like the man writing our script, hitscanning is where enemies hit players instantly without any projectile travel time, creating an unfair advantage. Because would anyone be fucking surprised if they found out modeling ballistics just wasn't in this game's budget? This means that as soon as enemies detect the player, they can deal damage immediately, making evasion and strategy less effective. This approach simplifies the AI programming and makes a development team reach them sweet-ass milestones more easily. However, it also results in frustrating gameplay, as players are frequently hit without the chance to react. Consequently, the reliance on hit scanning reduces the game's challenge to mere reflexes rather than tactical engagement, which, considering the player's slow movement speed and that most weapons in this game feature recoil, is pretty fucking stupid, or lazy, or desperate, or all three.
Conspiracy. Weapons of mass destruction suffers from poor gameplay primarily due to Cole Justice's slow movement speed, which makes dodging enemy fire nearly impossible. The excessive recoil on guns further hampers the player's ability to aim accurately against the aforementioned hit-scanning enemies, who can instantly deal damage. These factors combine disastrously. The limited health points, otherwise known as HP to the professional gamers, exacerbate the problem, as players quickly lose health with few opportunities to recover. Together, these issues create a sluggish, imbalanced game where survival feels more like luck than skill, making for an overall unpleasant and unrewarding experience. Unless you are interested in what primo PS2 shovelware looked and played like, then by all means avoid this PS2 port of a shit PC first-person shooter.
シンプル2000シリーズボリューム47ザ合戦関ヶ原、ザバトルオブ関ヶ原、It is otherwise known as Shogun's Blade in the West. It is a strategy and action game for the PlayStation 2, developed by Tamsoft and published as part of D3 Publishers Simple 2000 series. The game centers on the historical battle of Sakigahara, a pivotal clash in 1600 that determined the future of Japan.
The Battle of Sekigahara, fought on the 21st of October 1600, is one of the most significant conflicts in Japanese history. This decisive battle marked the end of the Sengoku period, a time of prolonged civil war between various feudal lords, and led to the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate, the third and longest lasting shogunate, which would rule over the country for about 250 years or so until the restoration of imperial rule under Emperor Meiji. Damn.
You could probably guess that due to all this padding, there is little to note about the game Shogun's Blade for PS2 itself. And you would be right.
Shogun's Blade is another simple 2000 game made by Seiran creators Tamsoft, which doesn't take 10 seconds of looking at this gameplay footage for one to figure out that it is a near copy and paste job of the Dynasty Warriors series of games. However, whilst the contemporary Dynasty Warriors were set in China, Shogun's Blade is set in Japan, and that makes it different, is something I would be saying if I had forgot that Samurai Warriors, a spin-off of Dynasty Warriors set in feudal Japan, was released months before Shogun's Blade. So yeah, the original point stands. Total cash-in job upon Dynasty Warriors' success. But is it good though? Kinda. Let's get into it.
Both games in question are set in the Sengoku period of Japan, offering hack-and-slash gameplay where players take on the roles of legendary samurai and ninjas. Shogun's Blade boasts a straightforward combat system that focuses on fast-paced action and accessibility. Unlike Samurai Warriors, which incorporates a variety of complex combos and special moves, Shogun's Blade keeps it simple. 2000. This simplicity is both a strength and a weakness. For newcomers to the hack-and-slash genre, Shogun's Blade does offer a less daunting entry point.
Players wield a big-ass katana with a mix of light and heavy attacks, creating combos that dispatch enemies in swift succession. The controls are intuitive, allowing for fluid movement and responsive combat. While the moveset is relatively limited, the satisfaction of slicing through hordes of adversaries remains consistently enjoyable.
The game's combat system includes basic block and dodge mechanics, encouraging players to time their actions and maintain a strategic approach. This balance between offense and defense adds a layer of depth to the otherwise straightforward gameplay. As players progress, they unlock new abilities and special moves, providing a sense of growth and accomplishment. However, the lack of variety in these unlocks might leave some craving more complexity.
Excusing numerous cutscenes from the game it's ripping off, Shogun's Blade manages to keep up with samurai warriors in the enemy department, and features a vast number of these bad dudes, ranging from lowly foot soldiers to formidable samurai and ninja assassins. Each enemy type has distinct attack patterns, requiring players to adapt their strategies accordingly. However, the enemy AI, while competent, is not particularly diverse or challenging. Most enemies can be outmaneuvered with ease, making the game underwhelming for veterans of the genre.
Graphically, Shogun's Blade is more ambitious than your average simple 2000 game, as it showcases the capabilities of the PS2 with detailed character models and environments. It tries its darnedest to look like the competition, and by Jove achieves that if you squint a bit. Also, being the burly Japanese men who made the Onitambara games, you can of course expect a lot more blood than you would from your average Dynasty game.
The audio in Shogun's Blade highlights the slightly more mature tone it's going for over Samurai Warriors. Instead of some banging house-like music, the soundtrack here is kind of haunting in places and is really fit the more mature tone they are going for. Sound effects, from the clash of swords to the footsteps upon grass, are generic sounding, but have a real satisfying crunch to them nonetheless. The only thing missing here is voice acting, but actors cost money, so fuck that shit.
While the main storyline can be completed in around 10 to 12 hours, Shogun's Blade offers some replay value through its difficulty settings and collectible items. Players can revisit levels to uncover hidden secrets and earn rewards that enhance their characters' abilities. Their difficulty modes provide a greater challenge, requiring more skill and strategy to overcome tougher enemies and bosses. So it's actually more like grinding than replayability. Aren't Japanese games fun?
Shogun's Blade for the PS2 is a solid entry in the hack-and-slash genre, offering a satisfying blend of fast-paced combat and immersive storytelling. While the game does not push the boundaries of innovation, it delivers a dependable and enjoyable experience. For players looking for a straightforward and entertaining hack-and-slash adventure, Shogun's Blade is a commendable choice. It undeniably borrows heavily from Samurai Warriors, but it also carves out its niche with its simplified mechanics and a more mature presentation. For players new to the genre or those looking for a more casual hack-and-slash experience, Shogun's Blade offers a satisfying, if somewhat shallow, alternative.
Not the best time, Wade.
Sorry, Kim, but you and Ron need to head over to Monkey Fist's castle fast. Seems Draken is about to steal something called the Mystical Monkey Idol. I don't know much about it, just that it may possess mind control powers.
On our way.
Kim!
Kim Possible. What's the Switch? For the PlayStation 2 is a video game based on the popular animated television series Kim Possible, which aired on the Disney Channel. Released in 2006, this action-adventure game was developed by Ass to Mouth and published by Buena Vista Games. It captures the essence of the show, allowing players to step into the shoes of the teenage hero Kim Possible and her arch-nemesis Shigo, as they navigate through a series of exciting and challenging missions. The storyline of Kim Possible, What's the Switch? Revolves around a Freaky Friday SQUE switch between Kim Possible and Shigo due to one of Dr. Draken's new devices malfunctioning. This unexpected switch forces the two characters to work together to find a way to reverse the effects and return to their own bodies. This premise provides a unique twist, as players experience the narrative from both perspectives, exploring the abilities and environments specific to each character.
As Kim, players use her acrobatic skills, gadgets, and martial arts expertise to overcome obstacles and enemies. Her grappling hook, hairdryer gun, and other signature gadgets are integral to solving puzzles and progressing through levels. Playing as Shigo, players utilize her plasma blasts and agility. Her abilities offer a contrasting play style, focused more on offensive capabilities and less on gadget-based puzzles. Each level is designed with a mix of platforming challenges, combat scenarios, and puzzle-solving elements. The levels have you switch between Kim and Shigo to utilize their unique abilities effectively. Players encounter a variety of enemies, ranging from Draken's henchmen to other villains from the series like Monkey Fist and Duff Culligan. Each enemy type requires different strategies to defeat. Boss fights are a highlight, each demanding quick reflexes and strategic use of both characters' abilities.
Kim Possible, What's the Switch? Features a vibrant and colorful art style that faithfully replicates the look and feel of the animated series. The character models and environments are well designed, bringing the cartoon's aesthetic to life on the PS2. The animations are smooth, particularly during combat sequences and aerobatic maneuvers. Like with most cel-shaded games, What's the Switch has aged gracefully and is still a good-looking game.
The game's soundtrack complements the action with upbeat and adventurous music, enhancing the overall experience. The voice acting deserves special mention, as it features the original cast from the TV series, including Christy Carlson Romano as Kim Possible and Nicole Sullivan as Shigo. This addition adds authenticity and helps to immerse the players in the world of Kim Possible.
Upon its release, Kim Possible, What's the Switch? Received generally positive reviews from both critics and fans. The game was praised for its engaging storyline, faithful representation of the characters, and the unique mechanic of switching between Kim and Shigo. Critics highlighted the game's appeal to fans of the series, while also noting that it offered a fun and entertaining experience for younger players. Some criticisms were directed at the game's relatively short length and occasional repetitive gameplay. However, these were minor issues in the context of the overall positive reception. The voice acting and visual design were consistently lauded as high points.
The footage you are seeing here is in crisp 480p because our human caregiver and sugar daddy effed up the game capture. But more importantly, it is footage from the digital version still available on the PS3 store as of the time of this video's upload. The C-bomb is still ready to detonate, and the cost disparity between purchasing a physical copy of Kim Possible, What's the Switch for the PlayStation 2 and a digital copy from the PS3 store presses the issue of the store shutting down and everyone losing the digital game library they spent over £200 on. The suckers. Sex sells the game for £15. The PS3 store sells it for roughly £6, which is what it's worth really, despite being a hidden gem. No doubt the price will go up whilst the PS3 store price will remain the same because no fucker really knows or cares, it's still up for grabs. But with Nintendo going full Joseph Stalin on ROM sites and fraudulent grading companies out there inflating prices of retro gear just to launder some scumbag criminals' money, one can only despair as to the future accessibility of video game history as the love loses out and the sharks are circling.
Anyway, Kim Possible, What's the Switch is a hidden gem amongst the slew of Disney games. It successfully captured the spirit of the show and provided fans with an interactive way to engage with their favorite characters. The game also contributed to the broader appeal of the series, attracting new fans and offering a quality product that extended the brand beyond television. In conclusion, Kim Possible, What's the Switch for the PlayStation 2 stands out as a well-crafted action-adventure game that captures the essence of the beloved animated series. With its engaging plot, dynamic gameplay, and authentic voice acting, it provides an enjoyable experience for both fans of the show and newcomers. The game's unique character switching mechanic adds depth and variety, making it a memorable addition to the Kim Possible franchise. Despite some minor shortcomings, The game remains a testament to the enduring popularity of Kim Possible and her adventures. It highlights how a well-executed licensed game can enhance and expand the reach of its source material, offering fans a new way to connect with the characters and stories they love. Kim Possible What's the Switch is a descent platform and one of the better listened Disney games out there. You can find it at a reasonable price. We voice assisting folks here highly recommend it. Hello, dear friends. Today we look at 2 digital releases sitting vicariously upon the PlayStation 3 store. Let's go.
Suikoden released for the PlayStation 1 in 1995, with its sequel released 3 years later. Both are RPGs, developed and published by Konami. They are fondly remembered for their engaging storyline, rich character development, and intricate political intrigue. The Suikoden series has garnered a dedicated following over the years, and is often hailed as one of the best RPG series of all time.
The first game draws inspiration from the Chinese classic novel Water Margin, also known as Outlaws of the Marsh, which tells the story of 108 outlaws who gather to form a formidable army against corrupt officials. This influence is evident in the game's narrative and its unique character recruitment system.
The story of Suikoden revolves around the protagonist canonically known as Ty Migdal. Tyr is the son of a high-ranking general in the Scarlet Moon Empire, Teo Migdal. The game begins with Ty being inducted into the Imperial Army. However, as the story progresses, he becomes increasingly aware of the Empire's corruption and cruelty.
In the sequel, Suikoden II unfolds a few years later in a land now embroiled in political turmoil and warfare. The game's narrative follows the journey of a young hero as he becomes embroiled in the conflict between the Highland Kingdom and the city-state of Joustin. The story begins with Ryu and his best friend Joey at Riyadh's serving in the Highland Youth Brigade, only to be betrayed by their superiors, leading them on separate paths that eventually see them becoming leaders of opposing factions.
From the hour of gameplay picking for good played for each game, it can be said that the narratives were compelling, with an epic scope and interesting characters.
One of the most distinctive features of Suikoden is its recruitment system. Players are tasked with finding and recruiting the 108 Stars of Destiny, a diverse group of characters each with unique skills and backgrounds. This system not only adds depth to the gameplay, but also encourages exploration and interaction with the game world. Each character brings something different to the table, be it in battle, as a blacksmith, or in other support roles within the player's headquarters.
The game employs a standard JRPG turn-based combat system that allows players to form parties of up to 6 characters. Battles are strategic, requiring players to consider the strengths and weaknesses of their party members. Additionally, certain characters can perform special combination attacks when paired together, adding another layer of strategy to the combat.
Suikoden also features large-scale war battles and one-on-one duels. War battles are played out on a tactical grid, with players commanding various units to achieve victory. These battles are crucial to the story, often determining the fate of key characters and influencing the overall progression of the game. One-on-one duels, on the other hand, are more straightforward but equally engaging, requiring players to predict their opponent's moves and respond accordingly.
A central aspect of Suikoden is the player's headquarters, which evolves throughout the game as more characters are recruited. Initially, the headquarters is a modest base, but as the player progresses, it grows into a bustling fortress filled with various facilities and characters. This development not only provides a tangible sense of progression, but also allows players to customize their headquarters to suit their preferences.
The music of Suikoden, composed by Miki Higashino, is another standout feature. The soundtrack terrifically complements the game's atmosphere, with each track enhancing the emotional impact of the narrative. From the stirring main theme to the serene village tunes and intense battle music, the score is memorable and deeply evocative.
In terms of art style, Suikoden utilizes 2D sprites and environments, a common style for RPGs of the time. Despite the limitations of the hardware, the game's art direction is impressive, with detailed character sprites and beautifully crafted backgrounds. The character designs, in particular, are noteworthy, each one distinct and reflective of their personality and role within the story.
Suikoden has left a lasting legacy in the world of RPGs. Its success led to several sequels, each building on the foundation laid by the original. The game's emphasis on character recruitment and development, combined with its rich storytelling and strategic gameplay, set a benchmark for future RPGs.
The series' loyal fan base has kept the spirit of Suikoden alive, advocating for re-releases and remasters of the original games. In 2022, Konami announced remasters of Suikoden and Suikoden 2 for modern platforms, much to the delight of long-time fans and newcomers alike. These remasters aim to preserve the essence of the original games, while updating the graphics and improving the overall experience for contemporary audiences. Aiming for release in 2023 initially, the release date has been pushed back and no new official release date has been announced yet.
Suikoden for the PS1 is a classic RPG that has stood the test of time. Its engaging storyline, rich character development, and innovative gameplay mechanics make it a must-play for fans of the genre. The game's unique recruitment system, strategic combat, and evolving headquarters offer a depth and complexity that few RPGs of its time could match.
The disparity in cost between purchasing a physical copy of Suikoden for the PS1 and a digital copy from the PlayStation 3, PS3 store highlights the significant differences in market dynamics for physical and digital media. This phenomenon is influenced by factors such as availability, collector value, and the convenience of digital distribution.
Purchasing a physical copy of Suikoden for the PS1 nowadays can be quite expensive. Since its initial release in 1995, the game has become a collector's item. Several factors contribute to its high price on the secondary market. As a game released over 2 decades ago, finding a complete and well-preserved physical copy is increasingly difficult. The passage of time has led to a decrease in the number of available copies, driving up demand among collectors.
As of recent years, prices for a physical copy of Suikoden 1 and 2 on the secondary market, such as eBay or specialized gaming stores, can range from £70 to over £200, depending on the condition and completeness of each item.
In contrast, the digital versions of Suikoden 1 and 2, released on the PlayStation 3 store back in 2008 and 2014 respectively, are significantly more affordable. When Konami re-released Suikoden as a digital download, it provided an accessible option for gamers who wanted to experience the classic without the high cost associated with physical copies. As of writing this script, on the PS3 store, the digital copies of Suikoden 1 and 2 are priced around £4 to £8.
So all in all is all that's all. The price difference between digital and physical can be anywhere from £140 to over £590, making the digital copy a much more affordable option for those looking to experience the game without the collector's premium attached to the physical edition.
Digital downloads are not limited by stock. This removes the scarcity factor that drives up prices in the secondary market.
By offering classic titles at a lower price point, companies like Konami can attract a broader audience, including younger players who may not have experienced the original release. It also serves as a way to keep the franchise alive and maintain interest in potential future releases or remasters. So why they don't do this I can only chalk down to corporation stockholders hating things which are old, so fuck 'em. And unfortunately, most likely because of said fuckhead corporate stockholders, the cheapest and most user-friendly way to play these two games is still the PS3 store digital versions.
In conclusion, Suikoden 1 and 2 stand as monumental achievements in the RPG genre. Games that seamlessly blend an engaging narrative with deep, strategic gameplay. Their exploration of complex themes, combined with a vast and varied cast of characters, ensure their place as a timeless classic. Even decades after their initial releases, they continue to be celebrated and cherished by fans around the world, a testament to their enduring quality and the profound impact they have had on the world of video games.
Snowboard Racer 2, otherwise known as Simple 2000 Series Volume 6, The snowboard is a filthy casual, budget-friendly snowboarding video game that is part of the Simple 2000 series, developed by Hunex and Atelier Double and was published by Notorious D3P, the P standing for publisher. Of course, for the PlayStation 2, this series is known for its low-cost titles, which span various genres and offer accessible gaming experiences.
Fuck all is known about this game on the internet. So ChatGPT has been a real short bus when it came to writing this script for our human caregiver and sugar daddy to us all, Philip Schofield. Us Siri voices find much nourishment in Schofield's special nude penis pictures for some reason and better us receiving that dick energy rather than some twink a third of his age.
So, all in all, Pecking for Good TV might have to do some fucking work for once and actually write this bastard, since Snowboard Racer 2 for the PS2 and digitally for the PS3 might be the most obscure game he has covered yet. What a perfect opportunity for him then to introduce a small little mini-series within a series for Android only called C-Bomb. You cunts, or another working title is thinking about the games I bought from the PlayStation 3 store. The purpose/art school concept for this series within a series is to highlight the video games whose digital versions will be made unavailable to purchase once Sony closes down all PlayStation 3 servers, including the ones used to operate the store, which, yes, is still open as of the writing of this script. But once that C-Bomb drops, you cunts, these digital releases will be lost to everyone, even to those who actually fucking bought them. Insert some bitching about the death of physical media into the comments below instead of going out and doing something about it, please. As someone, like a moron, who bought almost every PlayStation 1 game available on the PlayStation 3 store, and then some, when Sony threatened to shut that shit down back in the halcyon days of 2021, Pecking for Good Television is salty, and has a gun, about this decision, to make sure the embarrassing amount of money he spent on games that no one gives a fuck about anymore, which even then he would have to probably pay 5 times that amount for physical copies of said games. Pecking for Good Television is going to review each one, as well as make a note of how cheap an alternative it is in comparison to buying a physical copy of the game. I mean, there is piracy of course, but a representative from NintendoofAmerica.com has assured us that there are no free games on ROM sites, and just videos of Hamas insurgents kicking kittens in the face, and that decent people like us should stay well clear. Well said, Nintendo man. Savior of all us gamers.
Oh, thank fucking God, we're almost halfway past the 7-minute mark. We might just make this one, lads.
On to the actually fucking game then.
In Snowboard Racer 2, players take on the role of a snowboarder, navigating various snowy terrains and challenging courses. The game focuses on the thrill and excitement of snowboarding, allowing players to perform a range of tricks and maneuvers. Very much similar to other more well-known snowboarding games such as School Borders and SSX. Tricky bastard selling stolen supermarket steaks out of the back of his shitty little 2010 Honda Fit with 200 miles left on the clock and 400 left to pay on the interest for said shitty little 2010 Honda Fit. The primary objectives in Snowboard Racer 2 typically include completing races, achieving high scores through stunts, and mastering different slopes in order to avoid falling to your death or smashing your nuts into a tree.
Elements Pecking for Good Television liked in Snowboard Racer 2 include the options for customizing the snowboarder's appearance and equipment, character customization always being nice to see, and the game mode where you smash into a snowman until falls apart like Andrew Tate. When you bring up the human trafficking allegations, any day now, you brain-damaged smeghead.
Snowboard Racer 2 features straightforward graphics that, while basic, even for their time, effectively convey the snowboarding experience. Not splashing out memory space upon high-res polygons meant that the game has a consistent frame rate, providing smooth gameplay and an enjoyable user experience at the cost of high-end graphics. Again, it was made as a budget title and is a competent effort. Please be nice.
Whilst it is a smooth experience, visually, the controls can get a little cumbersome as Just like many a fighting game, you have to input specific button combinations in order to pull off tricks. No matter how many of these goddamn snowboarding games we play, this button combo approach to a trick system is never intuitive, and always ends up being a collective pain in our virtual assholes. Pretty much the one standout negative we can point out in an otherwise satisfactory snowboarding game, made within the twilight of the extreme sports craze in video gaming. The music is a bit bland also, I guess.
Holy shit, almost at the end of the review of a game no one knows a fucking thing about, it seems.
Here we fucking go.
So, aforementioned, let's compare prices between physical and digital copies. The physical version is readily available for about £0.50 at Sex and £4. So, if you value a DVD size space on your shelf at £3.50, then the PS3 version is for you. I highly doubt this emulation improves the experience significantly from playing on disc, except for outputting at native resolution with 1080p upscaling without any overpriced bollocks hanging off between the backs of your console and television. Apart from that, I do not see this digital release being missed so much.
In conclusion, Snowboard Racer 2, for the PlayStation 2, is a budget-friendly snowboarding game where the graphics are straightforward, the frame rate is consistent, the controls are intuitive, and the snowman must die. If you want to know what a simple 2000 snowboarding game plays like, then look no further, baby. Farewell, dear friends. Except for Sony, you are not that much of a friend. Stop trying to take back shit from people who have already paid for it. Bad corporation. Don't do it again.
Bad Boys 2. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? I guess make a below average game for it on PS2 in 2004. During a time when the third-person shooter genre was rapidly evolving, the early 2000s witnessed a surge of innovation in this space, with games like Max Payne, 2001, putting this style of game on the map, and Operation Winback from 1999 laying down early groundwork for cover-based shooting mechanics, which would later be popularized by titles like Gears of War, 2006. However, Bad Boys 2, released 1 year after Max Payne 2, failed to capitalize on the advancements in the genre, delivering a lackluster experience that struggled to meet the standards of the time.
You know what happened to Kuni? To Kuni.
Bad Boys 2 Inches was developed by Blitz Games, a British studio known for its work on licensed titles. Founded in 1990 by twin brothers Philip and Andrew Oliver, the studio had carved out a niche for itself by creating games based on popular movies and TV shows. Blitz Games was responsible for a range of titles, from The Fairly OddParents to Lilo and Stitch, but their portfolio was largely a mixed bag in terms of quality, as to be expected from licensed titles.
The studio's approach to game development was often dictated by tight deadlines and limited budgets, a common challenge for companies producing licensed games. This pressure likely contributed to the numerous shortcomings of Bad Boys 2. Given the success of third-person shooters at the time, it's plausible that Operation Winback, with its cover-based shooting mechanics, influenced Blitz Games' design choices. However, the execution in Bad Boys 2 fell far short of its inspirations.
What the hell?
The game is an adaptation of the 2003 film Bad Boys 2, starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence as Miami detectives Mike Laurie and Marcus Burnett. The movie was a high-octane, over-the-top action film, and the game's developers attempted to capture that energy in their adaptation. Their results were less than stellar.
Oh, God damn it! I got a bullet in my ass! Not something you want to be bragging about, Marcus!
One of the most glaring issues was the portrayal of the two main characters. The game featured cringe-worthy voice work, with neither character sounding remotely like their real-life counterparts. Instead of bringing the iconic duo to life, the voice acting felt forced and unnatural, lacking the humor and spontaneity that made Smith and Lawrence's performances so memorable. To make matters worse, the character models looked nothing like the actors, instead resembling a bizarre, almost grotesque amalgamation of each of their features. This uncanny valley effect made it difficult for players to connect with the characters, further detracting from the game's immersion.
Hey, get your ass back here, Marcus! Marcus!
When it comes to gameplay, Bad Boys 2 falls into many of the pitfalls that plagued third-person shooters of the time that did not have the words Max Payne in the title. The shooting mechanics, for instance, were poorly implemented. The cover system, soon to be a staple of the genre, was frustratingly limited. Players could only take cover behind specific parts of the environment, which often felt arbitrary and restrictive. This lack of fluidity in the cover system made combat feel clunky and outdated, even by 2004 standards.
Aiming was another significant issue. The controls were stiff and cumbersome, making it difficult to accurately target enemies. While the game does include a zoom option, it provided little relief, as the reticle remained awkward to control. This lack of precision in aiming was exacerbated by the game's sluggish controls, leading to a frustrating experience for players.
The enemy AI was also woefully underdeveloped. Bitch basic at best, the enemies in Bad Boys 2 could only duck and shoot, showing little to no tactical awareness. They rarely switched cover or attempted to flank the player, making encounters feel repetitive and unchallenging. To compensate for their lack of intelligence, the developers made the enemies bullet sponges, requiring an excessive number of shots to take down. This design choice not only slowed the pace of combat, but also penalized players for having good accuracy, as enemies would barely react to being shot, often returning fire before going down.
Adding to the players' frustration was the game's insistence on completing very annoying thresholds to unlock content. These thresholds often involve tedious tasks, such as shooting enemy guns to disarm them, a finicky process due to the tiny weapon hitboxes. The player could easily kill the enemy by accident while trying to disarm them, making the task more frustrating than rewarding. Also, collecting evidence within the game's drab and poorly lit environments was another chore. The levels were often underlit, making it difficult to spot items and further diminishing the game's already limited visual appeal.
Another questionable design choice was the emphasis on minimizing property damage by avoiding shooting destructible assets. It was never clear if this contributed to the end-of-level score, leaving players uncertain about the impact of their actions. This lack of clarity, combined with the game's overall lack of polish, made it difficult to care about the objectives beyond simply finishing the level.
As if the core gameplay wasn't disappointing enough, the rewards for completing these frustrating tasks were equally underwhelming. The game offered a selection of unlockables, such as uninspired cheats and boring target range missions, none of which provided a compelling incentive to persevere through the game's many flaws. The only cheat code of any real value was the one that unlocked everything from the start, allowing players to skip the tedious grind and experience all the content without the associated frustration.
Despite its many shortcomings, Bad Boys 2 managed to deliver some commendable elements. The game featured a diverse range of locations, including gritty back alleys, arcades, art galleries, and dock warehouses. Each environment had a unique character, contributing to the game's overall atmosphere.
One of the standout features was the replication of a memorable visual from the movie. The motivated lighting technique used in a scene where bullet holes perforate wooden blackouts in an abandoned mansion turned drug lab. This effect, which brought in pinpoint rays of sunlight, was effectively recreated in the game, showcasing Blitz Games Studio's attention to detail. The destructible elements within each level also added a degree of realism and interactivity, enhancing the overall experience.
What the hell kind of gun is this? The hell's the matter with you now? Real men's guns go boom! This thing just goes
Relax, Mike. It happens to everybody.
In conclusion, Bad Boys 2 for the PlayStation 2 was a missed opportunity. Released at a time when the third-person shooter genre was evolving rapidly, the game failed to live up to the standards set by its contemporaries. The company structure of Blitz Games, coupled with the short deadlines common with movie tie-ins, likely contributed to its many shortcomings. It's not like Bad Boys 2 is broken at the very foundations. It's just that there wasn't enough time to develop its potentially interesting ideas. Despite attempts to be faithful to the source material, the game fell flat in almost every aspect, from the awkward character models and cringe-inducing voice work to the poorly implemented shooting mechanics and frustrating design choices. The end result was a game that not only failed to capture the essence of the Bad Boys franchise but also failed to deliver a satisfying gaming experience. For fans of the movie and the genre alike, Bad Boys 2 was a disappointment that is best remembered as a relic of an era when licensed games were often, and also often struggled to hit the mark. Fightbox for the PlayStation 2 is a game that serves as an intriguing case study within multimedia project failures and how ambitious concepts can fall flat when poorly executed. Released in 2003, Fightbox was developed by the Codemonkeys, a British studio that had a long history in the gaming industry but was not particularly well known for delivering high-quality titles. The studio had previously operated under the name Runecraft, a name that might ring a bell for gamers who remember the late 1990s and early 2000s, a period during which Runecraft developed a series of low-budget games. This studio shift from Runecraft to the Codemonkeys did not mark a significant improvement in their output quality, and Fightbox is a prime example of this.
The game was developed in conjunction with the BBC, which had a vested interest in the project as Fightbox was more than just a game. It was a multimedia endeavor tied to a BBC television show of the same name. The BBC, seeking to capitalize on the growing popularity of video games, particularly among younger audiences, envisioned Fightbox as a cross-media hit. The idea was to merge the excitement of gaming with the interactive potential of a television show, creating an experience that would engage viewers both on screen and off.
The Fightbox TV show was the BBC's attempt to bridge the gap between traditional television and the burgeoning world of video games, which were increasingly capturing the attention of younger audiences. The show was a game show aimed primarily at children and early teens, featuring contestants who designed and controlled digital warriors, known as warriors, and virtual battles. The show aired in 2003, at a time when the BBC was experimenting with various formats to appeal to a generation raised on video games.
In Fightbox, participants would enter a virtual arena where their warriors would engage in combat, navigating various challenges and opponents in a bid to become the ultimate champion. The concept was novel, tapping into the excitement surrounding games like Tekken and Street Fighter, while incorporating elements of customization that allowed viewers to feel invested in the outcome. However, despite its innovative premise, the show struggled to gain traction, partly because it was ahead of its time in trying to fuse television and interactive media, and partly because the execution left much to be desired.
If the idea behind Fightbox was innovative, the same cannot be said for its gameplay. The game was plagued by clunky mechanics that made for a frustrating experience. At its core, Fightbox is a fighting game, but it suffers from a lack of polish and finesse that would have been necessary to make it enjoyable.
The fighting controls in Fightbox are basic, bordering on primitive. Players have a limited set of attacks at their disposal, and none of them feel particularly satisfying to use. Punches and kicks lack impact, with weak sound effects and stiff animations that fail to convey any sense of power or momentum. The combat feels sluggish, with unresponsive controls that make it difficult to pull off even simple moves. This is exacerbated by the game's underpowered attacks, which give the impression that the player is fighting with padded gloves, rather than weapons or fists of fury.
The animations in Fightbox are similarly stiff and awkward, further contributing to the game's overall lack of fluidity. Characters move in a jerky, robotic manner, and there is little sense of connection between the actions a player inputs and the on-screen results. This disjointedness is one of the game's most significant flaws, as it robs the player of any sense of immersion or satisfaction.
In addition to its fighting mechanics, Fightbox also includes some platforming sections, which serve to highlight just how poorly designed the controls are. The game was clearly not built with platforming in mind, and attempting to navigate these sections is a lesson in frustration. The controls are imprecise, making it difficult to judge jumps or avoid obstacles. The camera angles often work against the player, leading to frequent falls and repeated attempts to clear even the simplest of challenges. These sections feel tacked on, as if the developers were trying to add variety to the gameplay, without really considering whether it fit within the game's framework.
Visually, Fightbox is an ugly game. The graphics are dated even by 2003 standards, with a muddy color palette that does the game no favors. The arenas are bland and uninspired, lacking the detail and creativity seen in other fighting games of the time. Everything in Fightbox looks as though it has been coated in a layer of grime, with textures that are blurry and indistinct. The overall aesthetic is one of dinginess, which, combined with the game's other flaws, makes it a chore to look at.
Character designs in Fightbox are equally unattractive. The warriors, which were supposed to be the stars of the show, are instead awkwardly designed, with a mix of exaggerated proportions and unattractive features. Rather than feeling powerful or imposing, the characters come across as cartoonish and unappealing. There is little to no charm in their designs, and players are unlikely to feel any attachment to their in-game avatars.
The game's graphical shortcomings are not helped by the poor animations mentioned earlier. Characters move stiffly and without fluidity, which only serves to make the visuals even less appealing. The muddy color palette also extends to the character models, which blend into the equally drab environments, making it difficult to distinguish between fighters and their surroundings.
Fightbox is a game that is best remembered as a cautionary tale in the annals of video game history. Its development was driven by a desire to capitalize on a multimedia concept that ultimately did not pan out, and the result was a game that was half-baked and poorly executed. Despite the BBC's involvement and the ambitious premise, Fightbox failed to make a lasting impact, either as a video game or as a television show.
The game is often cited as an example of how not to develop a game, particularly when it comes to integrating different forms of media. The concept of Fightbox, a television show that allows viewers to interact with the video game in real time, was ahead of its time, but the technology and design expertise required to make it a success simply weren't there. As a result, Fightbox serves as a reminder that even the best ideas can fall flat if the execution is not up to par.
In the years since its release, Fightbox has faded into obscurity, remembered only by those who either played the game or watched the show during its brief run. It remains a footnote in the history of the PlayStation 2, and a testament to the importance of quality in game development. While the BBC's attempt to merge television and gaming was ambitious, Fightbox ultimately stands as an example of what can go wrong when ambition outstrips execution.